An event isn't an event without a proper introduction. Hence, I'd like to invite Dato' Raiha Azni Abdul Rahman, the Board of Directors of HRD Corp, to give a keynote speech for our conference today. Please welcome Dato' Raiha.
Hi everyone, Assalamualaikum, very good morning. Let me try to start again. First and foremost, thank you UTM, Malaysia HR Forum and Compass Mind Asia for inviting me today to give my perspective on International Women's Day on Break the Bias. Okay, my perspective will be coming from me being, I was with Petronas for 36 years, came in 1984, I've just retired early last year. And when I first joined Petronas, it was just less than 1% women composition in Petronas. And when I left last year, it's about 33%. After 47 years, we managed to arrive to that percentage. Anyway, my last position with Petronas, I was the Senior Vice President of Human Resource. And I'm also a member of the executive leadership team of Petronas. I'm only one lady, out of 9 person at the top pyramid of Petronas for more than 9 years. Yeah. Anyway, let me try to explain. We talk about unconscious bias. Unconscious bias in the corporate world, it starts from probably at the point of recruitment, at the point of selecting the right candidates, for example. Yeah. I was also the chairman of the board of University Technology Petronas. And you will see the number of women in university today. We are almost 45% women in a very highly technical university of UTP. And we are expecting more women coming into the organization. Yeah? When I say the unconscious bias, we found that this unconscious bias actually wired is a blind spot. It can be uttered by both women and men actually. Yeah, at any levels of the organization. Yeah? Then again, it's not a women's issue. It's rather organization issue, is a community issue, society issue, because it affects our ability to make sure that women are staying on an organization, to climb the career ladder, to become leaders that can make decisions. Yeah? And studies have shown many times over that when you have more in terms of gender equality in the organization, that women will be able to thrive, the revenue will be much better, and it gives deliverables of the company, the P&L of the company much in a better position. Yeah. Like I said, it is a blind spot. It's wired into us without us realizing it. Yeah. And the women need to be actually to be nudged, to be given, to be motivated, to be inspired. Yeah? To make sure there's also a platform for women to thrive in any organization. And unconscious bias is very subtle. You can never know it, not until the women actually felt it. And there's also meaningful ways for the women to realize that that it's not something that she would like it to face it, and how is she gonna go through it to make sure that she will continue to develop herself in the organization. Yeah, I would like to suggest a few things. It's a bit early in my keynote address, but I would like to give some actionable and measurable items that can be done by any organization. Yeah? Number one, you must have all organizations. You must have a diversity and inclusion policy. That is very, I would say, important. I would say a moving forward policy that will enable for the organization to thrive further with many women coming on board as employees. Yeah. It's a first back to basic measure, a policy where every employee is treated with respect, dignity, and fairness, with the aim of creating an environment which promotes positive working relationship. Yeah. So a policy that sets minimum standards of behavior, including being respectful of women and their circumstances, and does not tolerate any form of discrimination or harassment towards women in organizations. Yeah. So there are so many examples of D&I policies that you can refer. Majority companies in the oil and gas industry would have one. Yeah. And Petronas started to have this many years back to ensure that women are treated respectfully across the company. Yeah. Number two, that easily that you can do is establish a women platform, a network. I decided to, together with my team, decided to have this platform. We call it Petronas Women Leading Network, PLWN, in Petronas, because we have about 50,000 strong, we have about 70,000, 80,000 women across, and it is a very difficult industry. Industry that is, we call it a VUCA world of, we're talking about uncertainty, we're talking about ambiguous, with complexities, and uncertainties. We have women working in offshore facilities, we have women working on floating LNG ships, captains of the ship, engineers in the ship, working in a very difficult onshore facilities like Iraq, even offshore facilities in Mexico, onshore facilities in Canada, even offshore Terengganu, Sabah, and Sarawak, and onshore facilities even in all those three producing states. So when you have women working in a very difficult, challenging, what we call circumstances, environment, then we need to have the platform for women to voice out, to provide feedback, for networking, sharing of experiences, giving guidance, role modeling, what you call mentoring, coaching from women to another woman, or would be very, very nice to have men actually coaching women. Men believe that with the participation of women in a career in the oil and gas industry would thrive, in the organization. So the continuous engagement, the providing collaboration, networking will be able to assist women better. Yeah? And number three, that really organization can do, I would say, training to mitigate the biasness, to increase understanding of culture, the values, competencies. In Petronas, we have actually created, developed together with outsourcing company, another company, to do theoretical, to do training. What do you mean by unconscious bias? What is it that, when you say things, you utter certain words, meaning you are actually already a person with a biasness over women. Yeah. So these are the things that you can do. It would take a lengthy process to actually do this. Can you imagine we have 50,000 workforce and we need to actually train, create awareness to the top, the managers and above first. Then later on you can do for the rest, for them to understand what is this unconscious bias all about. Yeah. We call it a D&I workshop, or we call it a chapter exchange, are two things that we can do to increase awareness, biasness of women. Number four, definitely employers can do today flexible work policy, flexible work arrangement that attracts women to continue working with the organization. We'll have, of course, now with the pandemic and going to endemic, we have created that we are able to work from home and work still, being as normal. Yeah. We created in Petronas to make sure that female staff who actually, female and male staff who actually opted to resign, to come back to work. after they sort out all their personal issues, having young children or sick parents or whatever, whatever reasons, you can come back and work with us. After all the investment, if they are drillers, chartered accountants, or even human resource professionals, we want them to come back to work. Providing them a venue to go on unpaid leave. We have to also create, establish nurseries, for example, taking care of children while they are actually at work. Even mother's room, for that matter. Facilities for women in a very difficult workplace. Even women's toilet. When we first started to have onshore facilities, there's no women's toilet because it's designed for men. So we had to actually renovate it, created, even women's toilet, women's surau, mother's room, so on and so forth. And we allow to have a dual carrier in Petronas. If they are to post it overseas, the wife or the spouse can also follow them. And we call it dual carrier and spousal assistance as well. So these are the things that we can do. Another possible action would be very meaningful is for executive senior leaders, be it men or women, to actually sponsor women, to provide them opportunities for them to gradually given opportunities to to experience projects, strategic initiatives, or women to coach and mentor top potential, high potential women to make sure that they climb the career ladder and they will not fall out. The other part also, if we believe that women can thrive, can develop themselves, giving us a real human capital investment for women, we must also invest on having executive coaching for women. For organizations like Petronas, we are willing to spend money, to make sure that women are continue to be motivated, to be assisted, to be guided, to make sure that they are able to really, climb the corporate career ladder and ability to make decisions, as they go up the career ladder. Last but not least, the main thing, the tone from the top. I remember I was going to the board of Petronas and while presenting on empowering women, BLWN, platform for women, they were asking, do you have targets? So we have come up to have targets in the area of, especially on the technical staff, employees, female employees. How many percent it is? What is the target of the future that we want to have? So on and so forth. So having the targets, that means the tone from the top, including the tone from the top, the whole organization will have to take its responsibility and accountability to make sure that women continue to be developed, thrive, and given equal opportunity to go up the career ladder. So in essence, in conclusion, sorry, I take a bit of time. Whatever diversity and inclusiveness initiatives, we do need a very strong focus and implementation with targets, and monitoring, yearly, annually, and report to the board of the management. Where is it heading? And you monitor actually at the point of recruitment, how many that fall off, why they fall off, and we need to know the reasons for us to address the issues, what you call, accordingly. Last but not least, you have to do all kind of efforts to make sure that you have to break the bias, to make sure that women are given equal opportunity. I want to end this quote coming from Rihanna, because we will be appealing to the young women today. Rihanna mentioned this quote: "There's something so special about women who dominates in a man's world. It takes a certain grace, strength, intelligence, fearlessness, and a nerve to never take no for an answer." So I will end my keynote speech today, and I hope we will have a very meaningful and beneficial session among us today. And I will continue to listen to all the other women speakers and women and men speakers on Break the Bias. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for such a heartwarming speech, Dato' Raiha. And to all of you, I think you guys took so many notes on what she said, especially on the actionable and measurable steps on how to break the bias. Do practice it at your organization. It was so good. And I noticed the number of people who have come into the platform recently has been a lot. So I'd like to re-emphasize, we are going to be putting up the attendance link into the chat box. Please register yourself in, because then you are going to stand for running on the lucky draw prizes, which will be happening really soon. So please register yourself, and you will also be getting an e-certificate from registering yourself. Before we proceed, I would like to welcome those who have just joined also, because I know some of us joined a bit late. For information, this is a very interactive session, so we welcome comments and questions from our audiences. Feel free to put it up in the comment section so that we can get the speakers to answer. According to a quote from George Bernard, progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. So that's a very important quote. For our first speaker of the day, I would like to invite Anthony Raj Devadas, the Managing Director and Senior Client Partner of Conferry, to give a talk on Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Post 2020. What organizations need to do differently to make progress? Let's welcome Anthony.
Hi, Shireen. Thank you very much. Could I just check if the slides are up? And is it? Can you see it?
Yes.
All right, good. So thank you, Shireen. And I think it's good morning, everyone. And it's a perfect dovetail into the D&I discussion on diversity, equity, and inclusion, right after what Dato' Raiha set the stage on, and Professor Dr. Zaidatun. But I must thank UTM, Malaysia HR Forum, and Compass Mind Asia for giving us this opportunity to share with you a recent, in fact, the latest update on D&I research data points with targets that tells you exactly what is happening with organizations with a focus on the International Women's Day. How are they looking at diversity, equity, and inclusivity? What organizations are doing differently to make the progress? Have they made the progress, or is it just a show? So hopefully in the next 15 minutes, I will be able to share with you the data points that will help you, give you a perspective. Yeah. So in 2020 and 2021 saw a significant active transformative years for DE&I, or diversity, equity, and inclusivity, or inclusion, as they say. Organizations made commitments, they made promises to change, exactly like what Shireen said just now. And what has happened after 2 years? We need to see where we are at, the current state and the future state. So what we did was we basically asked about 4,500 business leaders, D&I professionals, HR experts across the world. And I will also share with you particularly what was in APAC and give you a perspective of what was the number of participation from Malaysia as well. All right. So when the perspective of D&I as an agenda came on priority for organizations, it was quite clear that 83% of the organizations have accelerated. So in the last 12 months, they moved really, really fast. About half of that moved significantly. I wouldn't say as fast as what we would have expected, but they are moving fast to ensure that the agenda is aligned at the board level, management level, and organization-wide. Now, while this is going on, they still continue to focus on certain things, right? They're doing what they're good at, but they have not started seeing the complete perspective of D&I. So, for example, if you look at the percentages there where they have developed non-discrimination policies, acknowledging diversity as part of their events, and a speak up culture as part of the conversations, and as well as ensuring that, earlier, to allude to what Dr. Rahel said about unconscious bias training, which is going to be important because it is going to be organization wide and you need to continue to create that awareness, right? But they seem to be doing only what they have already done well. So it's not across the board that they have come, but it's in the areas that they have already done. Now, so what are those areas they haven't progressed, right? So in terms of running inclusive leader program, only less than half of them, in fact, all of them are less than half of the percentage in terms of the progress, right? In fact, some are less than 40% in terms of equitable talent practices, purpose-driven design to include diversity as part of inclusive teams, and also embedding D&I into the business processes, right? Earlier, the speakers were indicating, is it a policy, a D&I policy? Is it already part of what organization doing, irrespective of the size of the organization, right? So, and that's not enough. That's the point we wanted to highlight today, and I think it is it's an extremely critical time now. Break the bias helps us give that unprecedented view that we have seen significant number of organizations yet to make that increase in the representation at senior levels. While they are progress, but yet to make that target, right? It's going to be important for us to make sure if we need to get there with the fullest participation of women leaders across the organization, that's the missing link right now. Engagement scores are not there yet. Underrepresented groups have not increased, and also by design they are also not included, right? So it's only 17%, right? So this gives you some statistical points. Of course, this is global data, and it has got corresponding basis to Malaysia as well, because Malaysia is included as part of the global data. Almost 57 countries we did, and I will share with you later a bit more details on that. Now, underrepresented groups are still not treated fairly at work. Yes, clear cut. And I've just highlighted one point, male versus female, and I think it's demonstrated very clearly there is a significant perception gap among when asked the question. In my work environment, everyone is treated fairly, regardless of personal background or characteristics, right? So it has been on the high, and as compared to the rest as well, in terms of the inclusivity gaps. Now, change, and Shireen reminded the change, the quotation earlier, must be more than skin deep, not lip service, must be applied, must be seen visible across, and must have outcome as part of the targets, right? Now, what good looks like? I think we need to see the value of how it's the perspective of D&I, and in line with the women's agenda, we are looking at from a market-based integration. What are those aspects? Operational integration, risk management, awareness, and talent integration. These are the touch points where we see what needs to be done at each of this stage and how it needs to be done to ensure that we have an equitable organization with equal participation and equality throughout the process. Now, some steps for you to do take away. I'm just giving you a midpoint check right now, and later towards the end I will also conclude a few things as well. So organizations need to look at identifying the root causes, and I think this starts at the top from a leadership perspective, behavioral perspective, and structural inclusion perspective. These are big, I'm not saying these are big words, but if you put it into practice, these are words which will help you ensure that you have on the basis of a policy that you're able to drive the D&I initiative, including the women workforce participation. Right. Now, just let me take a few minutes quickly to give you some data points. I know there's lots of you on the call, especially from a university perspective. This is going to be really helpful data, and organization perspective as well. You can see where we are at and what we need to do moving forward. So when we asked the question across earlier, when I alluded to 4,500 people across 90 over countries, we asked about the range of issues relating to D&I. It's a broad range, but under which today's agenda also falls, right? And we need to make sure that these are part of the practices and the talent processes. that has come into play. Now, in addition to that, what Conferry has done is we also looked at our opinion database network. So that's about 1.7 million network that we have. We have added to this to make it a bit more comprehensive and get a clear picture from this, right? So some touch points here to tell you where we have respondents' locations from. And if you would notice, Malaysia is on the top 12, I would say, among all the countries in the world, about 57 over countries. We had a good representation there. In terms of headquarter locations, Malaysia is on the list as well, with almost 45 organizations which are headquartered here. And in terms of job functions, the respondents that we have got through gave you a kind of a widespread and deep perspective of how diversity, inclusion, and equity has been play a part. HR is leading that. You had operations, sales, leadership, organization, and the rest of the functions as well. So it gives you not just a one single view perspective, but it gives you a holistic perspective in terms of responses as well. Now, let me take a deeper perspective in APAC results, right? You'll be looking at what is Malaysia part of and how it has come into play from a region perspective as well, right? Now, these are data points which gives you to what extent do you agree that your organization faces the following challenges. And if you notice, there's a comparative. I hope the link is visible. Gives you a perspective. And I will just take the first 2 points in the interest of time, and I believe this will be shared with all of you. Building a diverse and inclusive team, you would notice to what extent organization, the respondents agreed to, right? And if you notice, we are following suit, LATAM or Latin America, and then EMEA and APAC are the groups that we had connected with, and APAC is about 64%, just kind of trailing LATAM. And against the overall results, we are in line with the global results. And of course, making sure that the majority of the population are engaged as well, we are seeing a similar run rate as well, right? And in terms of recruiting underrepresented talent, we are at 60, probably the lowest as compared to the rest in terms of the acceptance to the changes or challenges that we have been facing, yeah? And particularly, I wanted to highlight this for today, break the bias perspective. What underrepresented group is your D&I strategy focused on? And if you notice, 74% of APAC results prioritize women. And that marks a significant wake-up call for all organizations in APAC and globally as well. Now, you might be wondering what's the global results. It's around there, but APAC is heading strong in that perspective. So break the bias is now not just lip service, but more into action as part of organizations coming into the play, right? Now, also looking at the rest of it, now all of this has got a touch point, interconnected. Has your organization accelerated? Yes, we understand it is accelerating. Is it moving as fast as we should? No. But what has triggered the acceleration is important. How is very important for us to make sure. So this is where you notice the CEO and executive teams are making that move, right? And if you see, this has to being driven from a leadership perspective throughout the organization, yeah? Now, in terms of budgeting, now, of course, automatically we ask, I think that Roy was saying, we had to make investments to make that change. So always D&I has got a budget that needs to support that. Now, the question is, how has it changed? So yes, it has incrementally increased, but only a quarter of the population have exhibited that it is. And another quarter has said it's about the same level, right? So this is where there's an opportunity for organizations to make that headway and drive that decision, to make that investment so that we can drive the agenda to take it forward. Now, I'm going to just quickly move forward. In terms of practices, do you have any in place, or are you planning to put in place? We've seen that development of the non-discriminatory policies, bullying or harassment, or overall general perspective is there. We have seen that APAC is on the rise for that. We are still lower than the global perspective. When you're looking at speak-up culture, we are still trailing, but I think it's an important area for us to do. But APAC has got a one notch higher as compared to the rest of the world. And the DE&I strategy, we are also trailing as compared to the global, but I think it is going to be important for us to ensure that we create the awareness as we go. Yeah. In terms of practices that you have in place or are you planning to put in place, we have seen that inclusive leadership trainings, and I think this is a big shift that is happening. While it's a period of 12 months, 24 months, we are looking at it, we have seen that it is progressing slower than expected. And in earlier updates, I've indicated to you this is an area where it requires a better and faster visibility from organization-wide, as well as employee resource groups that is driving this. Now, if I break it down a little bit in more details, equitable talent, this is where the touch points are. Where have you seen the review of the policies or procedures that is coming in for fair and equitable? Recruitment process has seen the first on the top, and performance management is following suit together as well. And if you see in that highlight, we are almost there with the global in the case of recruitment process, but performance, we are ahead in terms of performance management processes. Now, so what are the biggest challenges when it comes to implementing D&I? I think the biggest one is making it applicable, impactful, right? Converting the words into action and then driving the behaviors. And throughout, our speakers earlier have also indicated that we need to make this an organization-wide behavioral change, right? Okay, in terms of positive impact, I just like you to see the highlighted zone. I would like to zoom in into that. Have you seen positive impact from D&I efforts in the past 12 months? Although we've seen the increased hiring rates in underrepresented groups, and I take it that women participation is part of that exercise. And of course, training attendance has also seen almost a flat kind of in change over there as well. All right. So one of the things that we have seen that works impactfully through organization is the power of choice for women. It's a differentiated approach that helps build a diverse talent pool, particularly underrepresented group, and focusing on all aspects, social, personal, and organizational. How do you ensure you overcome the obstacles? The power of choice helps overcome these obstacles focused on across the board organization, the power of choice for women, for diverse talent and Asian talent, particularly, and of course, other global talent as well, right? Right. So in the interest of time, I just wanted to leave some thoughts with you on what we are practicing and as well as what we have seen organizations practicing as part of what they're doing, particularly on the International Women's Day, the 5 E's, keeping it as part of our day-to-day action of inclusion, that everyone can make it happen in the workplace to be more inclusive for women. First and foremost, equality is about ensuring fairness for everyone, a level playing ground, make sure that it is equitable environment for all of them, enterprise-wide education, making sure that we continuously educate about this unconscious bias, about breaking the bias, and also ensuring that you're looking at overall a fair perspective for them. Empowering women to take charge. I think leaders of different businesses or divisions have a responsibility to drive this, and encouraging women workforce and leaders to take charge and take responsibility and drive that forward, rather than where we do not have an opportunity, they do not rise up as well, right? One of the other aspects we have seen as an increase awareness is about encouraging women entrepreneurs. And I must tell you, entrepreneurs doesn't mean it has to be aligned only to men. Yeah? And I think this is where we have a huge opportunity in Malaysia and in Asia to increase more women entrepreneurs to take up the business leadership as well. So you have the corporate leadership, and then you have the business leadership. And I think we have to play a part together, all men and women across all Malaysians, where we can have that encouragement to drive that. And it is being done in several ways, but I think the responsibility lies with everyone. Yeah. Enabling women, as you know, I think there's a lot of data to let you know that Malaysia, in terms of women workforce participation, has significantly fallen behind in ASEAN. And we are also having a talent crunch. We have a shortage of quality talent, right? I must say I have another perspective. I am biased, but I'm biased because all my team members are women, right? I'm giving you a perspective to share with you because I looked at it as the right perspective and the best and the right talent coming up, irrespective of color, uh, any of the categories, no bias attached to that. But I looked at only bias towards having the right talent in the team, right? So you do have a huge workforce, women workforce in Malaysia, and for several reasons. They attributed personal reasons and others family reasons and so on. They've chosen not to work or taking care of family. But today, in the last 2 years, we have accelerated working from home, right? We have the technology, and it is a great opportunity now to ensure that we give that, extend that to work from home opportunities as well, and thereby we retain talent and we continuously reskill them as well to ensure that they, while at home, doesn't mean that it's not work. It's work plus reskilling as well to ensure that we are leading in the market for all of the great talent that we have in the market. All right. So with that, I thank you for this opportunity for me to share with you some significant insights in what's happening around the world, in the region, and in Malaysia. And I appreciate that. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
That was such a wonderful explanation, Anthony. So much of data to work with. That's wonderful. Yeah, we actually have questions from the audience, but because of time, let's take one question. One of the questions is, what could be a simple step on organizations can take to kickstart their DE&I agenda?
All right. I think the most important, and I'm glad that you asked this question. Thank you very much for the question. Is to ensure you take a stock check on where we are at. Right. It's a very simple data point. You're going to take about the organization leadership. You take about the board level. You take about the management. You look at the organization-wide women in workforce participation. Right. And I think it's as simple as that. You'll be able to see visibly where's the gap. Am I right? Okay, we don't even need to go further than that. And if you take that stock check there and you need to see what is the gap, the next step is in design the solution in terms of working with the leadership, ensuring that they are part of that decision process, where they are committed to the decision to ensure that you have diversity and inclusivity irrespective of any preferences or biases. That's the simplest step I would encourage everyone. You all know that there is an initiative to drive the board membership. And I'm glad that Raiha earlier shared with that. The women in the board participation in Malaysia has significantly risen. The women in management there is a significant opportunity to rise up to. So there is a gap there. And enterprise-wide, women in participation with a flexible workforce arrangement where you can work from home if you need to take care of family. But there is also, I'm in a way, I'm very thankful the last 2 years, it has helped us look at a new perspective. It has also recognized that you can contribute and work from home. So that ability can be done as well. So utilizing that, applying that simple step forward, and of course, create the next, I would say, making sure that you continuously create awareness, because bias comes from every new edition. So if you have an organization-wide culture which is unbiased, right, or removes the unconscious bias, then it is going to help ensure that you have inclusivity through the organization. Thanks. Back to you, Shireen.
Thank you, Anthony, for such a detailed answer. And thank you so much for being here with us today and spending your time with us.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Shireen.
So you all got so much of data from Anthony today, and data actually helps us make very good results. And like he shared, the 5 E's in day-to-day actions that you can actually apply immediately. So don't forget to take those steps and apply it right away at your organization. And before I introduce the next speaker for the day, I'd like to encourage all of you, throw in as many questions, because this is an interactive session. Throw in as many questions as you have on your mind, or questions that relate to your organizations that you want to ask in relation to this topic today. and the speakers will be very happy to answer them. So let's move on to our next speaker. Bias and discrimination, as much as we all dislike it, but it still occurs in today's world, like I mentioned at the beginning. That being said, I would like to invite our next speaker, Siti Suryati Kama Asnawi, the Chief Human Resource Officer of HRD Corp, to share with us some important highlights on managing bias at the workplace. Let's welcome Siti Suryati.
Hello everyone, good morning. Assalamualaikum. Thank you, Shireen, for the introduction. First of all, I would like to thank Malaysia HR Forum, Campus Mind Asia, and also UTM for the invitation as a speaker, one of the speaker. I'd like to also highlight with my fellow other speakers, esteemed board speakers. I have my board members as well together as part of the speakers today. Dr. Raya is with me, Dr. Grace will be speaking later on. I'm very happy this morning to be with them in this session. So I would like to, before I start, I would like to have my session very casually. I would like to have it, I would like to start with having a small riddle. So if you can share my riddle. Is it sharing? Okay. So the riddle goes this way. Okay. So a father is about to bring his son to a job interview, which is applying for a position in a large conglomerate organization in the country. So suddenly, they were in the parking, suddenly the son's phone rang, and he looked at his father who says, go ahead and answer it. So the caller is the company CEO, who then says, good luck, son, you've got this. So the son ends the call and looks once again at his father, who is still in the car next to him. So how is this possible? And the question is, who is the caller? So if anyone who knows this question, sorry, did I just give this? Okay, I just did this, the questions to this. So if you're going to talk about unconscious bias, so who do you think the caller is? So just for a moment, the answer to this riddle is actually its mother, is his mother. So the CEO is a woman. So there's a lot of great leaders out there as a woman. There's a lot of Fortune 500 big conglomerate organization out there is a woman. But when at split second, when this riddle comes into our mind, many in study, actually this study is riddle given as a social experiment study to many out there. And only a few little who can answer this question in split second without any doubt that it's his mother. So others would think that it's his grandfather, his another father, or his father himself. So many have answered this in the gender of the caller of the gender is augment somehow or other. So think again that if you think that you're not sexist, you're not biased, but when in a split second you're given in such circumstances, you are unconsciously thinking you have that unconscious bias in you. So if we can go to the next slide, if you can see that these are among the ladies who have held and still holding a very big role to support the country in regards of political aspects and things like that. So there are many more. This is just among examples that we have in the country. Yeah. So at HRD Corp, I'm very pleased and very happy that we can proudly say that the employees are hired based on and promoted based on their capabilities and not their gender. So if you can see, I like to share the statistics that 40% of our board members are women. 43% of our senior leadership, my peers, I would say, are also women. and 53% of our employees nationwide is women. So, Anthony mentioned that first is you need to know where your statistics is earlier. And I'm very proud and I'm very pleased to say that in HRD Corp itself, we do have this already in place, and we're very much aware of our statistics, and we're very proud of it. So how do we do this? Definitely creating a policy of D&I policy is one of it. It's not there yet, it's in the pipeline. But before having that policy, we are already aware and consciously thinking and consciously hiring our employees and recruiting our employees based on their capabilities and competency, and not based on their gender or ethnic or whatsoever. Okay. So this year's theme, nonetheless, although in the organization HRD Corp, the statistics is quite okay, but nationwide or in globally, women is still only 3/4 equally have the rights in terms of law and a lot of other aspects. So as this theme of the year is is break the bias, and talking about managing bias at workplace, bias is such a big word. So why is it still relevant until the word bias is still relevant till today? Is because it's such a big word and there's a lot of meaning to this word, and without even noticing it, it's certainly an opportunity for each of us to come to inspect of our common beliefs, right? So there's a lot of words saying that men are born to lead, women are too emotional, women are not assertive, women will stop working once becoming a mother, and so forth. So those are the certainly have that common words that we commonly hear, right? Although humanity has certainly come a long way, we still grow up surrounding by this, hearing this kind of unconscious bias and words, right? So in workplace, there are a few things that we can change and we can do. So one of them is to make the unconscious conscious. So we have to be comfortable enough to speak the uncomfortable topics, to raise up the uncomfortable aspects and agenda in the management from top to bottom. So we have to have this, we have to create this environment that we are comfortable speaking uncomfortable issues, right? So second is managing how other views the person. So by that says you have to know your skill sets and comfortable of what you can bring into the table, right? So you have to be the best version of yourself. You have to, because if you don't be the best version of yourself, which sometimes is going to be difficult and it's just going to turn out badly in the long run, right? So you have to know yourself, your skills, your abilities, and as an HR in the organization, we have to be able to consciously look into very niche aspects, such as the title of the position. Okay, there are some still organizations who gives titles such as tea lady. Why is tea lady a tea lady? It can be a man who's doing that job. It can be like driver. It can be a woman who's driving, right? So try as much as possible consciously think about the title. It looks simple, but it does make a lot of change in removing unconscious bias and other things, right? So skill-based assessment is another thing where we make assessment and we are able to look into the strength that the strength that we have of our people. So some people are, they are good in arts. Some people they are good in operation, technicals, and other things in regards of the gender. So it is not stereotyping or negatively putting them because of you are this and you are this, you are here. But so when you have this skill-based assessment in regards of whatever gender you are, you are able to put them at the right place for your employees based on their capabilities and the skill sets and their competencies. So the other things is about having, we mentioned this earlier this session, whereby having such policy, D&I policy, creating awareness, creating, the conversation, consciously looking into the position, having the right thing from the start, from hiring till the end of the employee life cycle is very much indeed important. So, okay, so I have ended my points on that, but before I end, I would like to also mention to women, ladies out there, to take charge of your own destiny, right? So, other people bring everyone have their own strength and abilities, and just a little bit sidetrack of managing bias is also to encourage our ladies and women out there to take charge of your own destiny, where you will need to be able to know your competency, your strength, and your weakness, and believe in that to pursue. I don't want to see this as bragging, but I would like to somehow give this as mostly an inspiration to young ladies out there who's climbing up your ladder, career ladder, where I tend to be the Chief of Human Resource Officer in HR Corp at the age of 35, 36, right? So I'm really revealing my age now. Okay, so I'm 37 this year, not yet, in November. So why I'm saying this is not because I'm bragging. I'm not trying to brag. Okay, I'm just telling you that it's possible. So it's in regards of the age, in regards of whatever gender, age. It's about what you bring to the table. It's about knowing yourself. It's about getting the best out of yourself and removing the doubt, and just as much as possible, try to break that stereotyping, try to understand that, and try to believe in yourself and move forward, and try it out. At least first try it out, and once, if you're comfortable, if you're able, if you success, then it's good. If not, you can always know, and you can always try harder and go ahead in the next career ladder, or in your next move, and what you should do and what you can take. So I believe that's a part of a little bit of what I can share from my end. And if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to take.
Such a great explanation, Suryati. I loved it, how relaxed and casual you made it. It's so nice. So guys, if you all have any questions, please put it in the chat box. And well, we are also running out of time. So most if we do, it's just one. Okay, we have a question from, how does it feel to work in an environment where you are surrounded by iron ladies at top position? Wow, that's a fabulous question.
Well, actually, it gives me much more confidence, and it gives me, having such great ladies mentor, friends at top, and colleagues that genuinely are happy to see you excel, to see you raise above the bar. It's actually it's a very nice feeling and environment, I tell you that. So know your surrounding, remove yourself from toxic environment, or organization, if you feel that you can't excel in that organization and that environment, and look at where you can thrive. So I'm very much happy. I'm very, very blessed, I would say, that I have such great mentor with me. I have such great friends who are genuinely happy to see me grow, and happy and giving advice. Definitely we make mistakes. We have our downs, your bad days, your great days, or your so-called mediocre days. Definitely we all have that. But then again, when you have such great mentor leaders with you, you can always rely on them. You can always just, you can just one call away. They are more than happy to help you. I would say that it's a very nice feeling. It's a very great feeling. I'm very blessed in that sense. Thank you for such the question. If there's any other time, if we have more time, I'm more than happy to take any questions.
Yeah, that actually is so nice to be surrounded by women. And it was also so nice to see the statistics of HRDF, HRD Corp, how you all have women around. The employees, number of employees are mostly women, higher percentage, more than half a percentage of women. So that's great job. Anyway, thanks again so much for joining us today, Suryati. And if there's more questions, we'll post it to you, and we hope you can help us answer it later.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you. Well, like you guys all heard, what all the speakers from the beginning has been saying, has been advocating, come up with a DE&I policy in the organization. Do you already have one? Well, let us know in the chat box if it's a Y for a yes and N for a no. And if you are enjoying all this so far, don't forget to give us likes and loves in the Facebook chat. Send us as many likes and loves. And because you all are going to send us so much of likes and loves, I am going to announce something you all really are looking for. As promised, we have the special lucky draw segment right now for all fellow registered audience. So I'd like to invite Rajinder Jit Singh, the director of Compass Mind Asia, to proceed with the lucky draw session. And I wish all of you the best.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys have been having a fabulous time and enjoying the session this morning. And today we'll be having a short lucky draw, and then from this we will proceed further with the balance of the great speakers available after this. All right. So for the lucky draw, we have got so far registered about 370 participants, and if you can see, we will be using a wheel of fortune, and we will spin according to the names that will appear on the screen. Okay. So first of all, before I proceed, I would like to thank the sponsors for the lucky draw prizes. First of all, Compass Mind Asia for some gift packs that they have provided. Also to Malaysia HR Forum for providing 4 jackets to be given, fabulous jackets. We would also like to thank Mr. Ganapati Ramasamy for providing 2 books, sponsoring 2 books called Discipline at Work. It's a guide for managers. Yeah. Also, I would like to thank another sponsor, author Hira Singh, a well-known HR practitioner, with his 2 books sponsored on human resource documentation. This will be very, very useful for the HR managers and also the HR personnel. All right. Moving forward, we also have got 2 more books sponsored by the author Pritpal Singh Khosa from Learning Age. The book is a motivational book called The Tribe. This is a book you really want to have your hands on and have a good read on it. And lastly, we have 2 more books by Sivanesan Shalmi from Shalmi Human Solutions Sdn Berhad, and the title of the books are called Reclaim Your Right to Success. All right. So all these lucky draw prizes, the winners, our admins will get back in touch with you to contact you and get your delivery address. So what we will just see today is just appear your name on the screen, and subsequently we will courier these gifts to you. All right. So without waiting further ado, let me move forward to the first lucky draw, which will be the gift pack from Compass Mind Asia. Nina, are you ready? On the count of 3, 1, we will have the first spin. 1, 2, 3. And the first lucky draw winner is okay. The first lucky draw winner is Nur Ani Misran. We will move forward. Okay, so Nur Aini, we will get in touch with you for your delivery address. Yeah. Okay, moving forward for the second gift pack from Compass Mind Asia. The spin has started. Let's see who's the lucky winner this time. The lucky winner is Ahmad Fadli bin Muhammad Suhaimi. Now will be The lucky draw gift for this subsequent one is the jackets, as I mentioned, from the Malaysian HR Forum. Winner for this beautiful lucky jacket is Fadila Jolie. Let's move on to have another spin. The lucky winner for the second jacket by Malaysian HR Forum goes to Syed Hashim bin Syed Noor. Now we'll move on to the next sequence of books, which is called the Discipline of Work. Discipline at Work by Mr. Ganapati Ramasamy. On the count of 3, 1, 2, and the spin has started. Let's see who the lucky winner is. The lucky winner for the book entitled Discipline at Work is Muhammad Rosmi Effendi bin Muhammad. We will now have another spin for the book by Hira Singh, Human Resource Documentation. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. The lucky winner for this awesome book entitled Human Resource Documentation by Hira Singh goes to Erwan Saman. Erwan Saman, congratulations. Moving forward, we're talking about the motivational book by Perpal Singh Khosa entitled Thrive. On the count of 3, 1, 2, spin. These are all exciting prizes that we will courier to you. The spin is coming up, and the lucky winner for this particular book, a very interesting book, will be Li Hui Zin. And the last lucky draw for this session, before we move to the second lucky draw later in the afternoon, will be the Reclaim Right to Success. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. You can spin. Yep. And the winner for this particular lucky draw is Muhammad Amin bin Delani. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who have still not registered for a lucky draw, we have another round of lucky draw in another 45 minutes time. So please go back to the link, register yourself, because you still stand a chance of winning another 8 lucky fabulous prizes. So with that, congratulations to all the winners. We will get in touch with you to send the gifts to you. With that, we end the first session of lucky draw and we hand it back to the MC, Shireen.
Thank you, Rajinder, and congratulations to all the winners. I'm sitting backstage and wondering, is my name going to be called? But no. So to the lucky winners, we will be in touch with you via email. So look out for the email and reply with your address so that we can courier the gift over to you. Expect about 3 weeks to get your gift within 3 weeks from today. Yeah, as it will take time to courier it to you. So thanks, Rajinder, and like I said, congratulations once again. And for those who have not won, don't get disheartened, because like Rajinder said just now, we're going to have another lucky draw session at the end of the event today. So stay tuned. And if you have not registered yourself, because the lucky draw is based on the registrations that was put into the registration link is put into the chat box. So we have the registration link put into the chat box once again now. So for those who are the late joiners, make sure you register yourself so that you'll be in the running for the next lucky draw, and also to get your e-certificates. Well, it's time for our next speaker, and I'm sure all of you are waiting for that. I'm sure we have all heard of the saying, the sky is the limit. What does that mean? It actually means there are no limits and that anything is possible. But how do we women do that in today's competitive world? To answer this, I'd like to invite the Chief Human Resource Officer of Jepson and Jesson's Group, Olivia Chua, to give her speech on breaking the glass ceiling. Please help me welcome Olivia Chua. She will be in just a second to talk about breaking the glass ceiling. So for those of you who are here and really truly enjoying the session, please give us some likes and hearts, some love. Let's share the love out. And also, if you support the theme for this year, which I'm sure you do, type #BreakTheBias in the comment section. While we're waiting for our next speaker, Olivia Chua, she will need to get onto another link. All right, well, help me welcome Olivia Chua. Hi, Olivia. Olivia, can you hear me? Okay, just give us a couple of seconds. It's going to be a very exciting speech that she's going to give to you guys. A lot of takeaways, like how the rest of the speakers have been giving. If you've learned so much, why don't you also indicate in the chat box, what are the 3 things that you've learned from the speakers before this? All the speakers that have come before this, what are the 3 takeaways that you think you're going to use and implement in your organization right now? Because there's so many actionable steps that they have shared with us, actionable and measurable steps that we can actually apply immediately. So type out in the chat box 3 measurable and actionable steps that you think you're going to take and apply at your workplace today. I'm sure one of it you all are going to type is to come up with a DE&I policy, isn't it? Because that's what all the speakers have said this far. Yeah. All right, welcoming Olivia Chua. Hi, Olivia. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Okay, we can hear you loud and clear.
Hi, sorry, Shireen, I really can't hear you. But if you can hear me, that's great. Yeah, so I'll proceed. Thanks everyone for inviting me, to Shireen as well as UTM for inviting me here to share my story. So could you guys, sorry, I think that's the wrong name that you're showing. Yeah. I have just a couple of slides to share. Basically, the topic that I'm sharing today is actually breaking the glass ceiling. Appreciate if you could show the slides as well. Yeah. Okay, what's this all about? I would say that in very simple words, right? Breaking the glass ceiling is basically when it says here marginalized workers. So think about it that today's forum is about women. So women representing in terms of the marginalized workers and how do they get up to the top in that sense. So the previous speakers, right, they all have spoken about companies itself in terms of company actions. I would like to actually share that Jepson and Jesson Group is a private organization. And in the last 2.5 years since I took up this position as CHRO, we've had about 6 female senior leaders that we have either recruited or promoted internally. And they actually represent basically whether they're general managers, which are heads of companies, or directors who are heads of functions. And we even have two C-level leaders who are seniors who have been promoted and so recruited to this position. So Jepson & Jessen basically also a male-dominated industry, and very happy to share that we are also moving towards to have a more diverse gender in terms of our organization itself. But that's all about companies, because I believe that you have heard a lot from the previous speakers in terms of what the companies can start off in terms of going into bringing more diversity, in the organization in terms of women representation. So today, what I'm going to share is more of a personal journey. It's a little bit different in the sense that, what I have actually overcome in terms of obstacles, getting to where I am right now. So I thought to share this in terms of my journey itself, so that I hope that you would understand and maybe would be able to take or resonate some things that I would like to share today. And hopefully you can learn a little bit from here. So moving on to this, I would say that the first thing, right, is maybe to share a little bit, is my family background. So I come from a very traditional background as well, in the sense that I'm the youngest and the only female. So I have two elder brothers, and basically in a very traditional family, right, the male or the sons come first. Yeah. So I think maybe some of you may resonate in that sense. But for me, it comes to even education itself. So at the age of 17, so after completing a Form 5, I had nowhere to go, in a sense that because all the money has already been invested with my brothers. So when it comes to that stage, right, in a sense that if especially when you're a young kid, right, what do you do? In that sense, you can always think of yourself that whether you're a victim or whether how to become a survivor. So that comes to the first principle that I would like to share. It's really the mindset. A lot of people would come to this stage as well, similar to me, where they would give up, or they would just complain, or they don't do anything. But what can you do to move forward? So I guess in the sense that for some reason, I believe that by having right guidance actually helped me a lot. So I had a lot of very good friends who actually kind of like pushed me in the right direction. So even though I didn't have much support, but friends who kind of like shared with me in terms of what they're doing and everything. So that's where I started making decisions on my own. So at 17, making decisions on my own in terms of what do I want to move forward. So I think that was one of my, I would say the first critical point in my life, that what can I actually do? So I went obviously in terms of government schooling, Form 6, and then went to local university itself. So this is just the first part of the journey where taking decisions, making decisions on your own, where you may not have the support of family, but just listen. Sometimes I would say observation is very important. Listen and observe others, and believe that that there will always be a guardian angel, I would have to say, that would actually push you towards the right direction, but you just need to listen and observe. So I hope that doesn't sound very abstract to you, but it actually, for me, until my career right now, that's what I have actually been doing. Okay, so coming to the second point, right? I think this is really, really important. I think this was also what was pointed out by Siti Suryani just now as well, is that know your self-worth, what you are actually capable of. I think besides that, right, is also knowing what you want to achieve. I know at a young age, right, you probably don't know exactly, what are my strengths, my weaknesses, you haven't tried it yet. But I think the most important thing, right, is actually to believe in your ability. I think that's just a generic thing that what you should think of is that to believe in your ability. So, and whatever that you do, right, whatever job that you take, put it your 100% commitment. And this is where you start to know about your self-worth, because you see how other people interact with you, how other people, appreciate you. That's where you start to develop your self-confidence as well. Yeah. Okay, going to what you want to achieve. So this is a little story that I want to share in terms of the 100 bucket list. So I started off my career in consulting, and this was one of the exercises that I had to do at the age of 25 years old. I was asked to do a bucket list of 100 items that I wanted to do, but it was just only for myself personally. So I did that 100 items, 25 years old, you just put whatever you want, right? Whatever that, comes into your mind. And I did it, and I put it into a drawer. And I thought that, okay, that's it, right? Just forget about it. And after 2 years, I so happened, was cleaning my drawer, and I came across this list again. And in 2 years, right, and in this 100 list, right, I didn't achieve anything. I didn't at all. So this is where it came to my second critical moment, very fast, first 17 years old. And then 25 years old, I came to my second critical moment where I felt that I needed to change. And this was after 4 years of working, where I felt that, I've been, as some of you may know, consulting hours, working really long hours. I had several debts that I had as well. I had a housing loan, I had a car loan, I also had an education loan as well. So at a very young age, I had many loans, and I felt that, how am I going to get out of this current situation that I'm in? Is either that I stay on and just work with, not very high pay, or I do something about it. So it comes to a point for me where I felt that looking at the 100 bucket list, that I felt that I needed to do something. So this is when I went overseas without a job. Actually, I went overseas, but because the exchange rate was like, times 7, this was in the UK. And I knew that it was something that I had to do so that I could get rid of all the loans that I have after I returned. So you must be wondering, how did I do that? But basically, at that time, Malaysia had this Commonwealth visa that you are allowed to go over to the UK for 2 years to work and to also spend your holiday as well. So I would say that was one of the best decisions I've made, because from there, I learned that life experience, if it's not as important, it is more important than work experience, because it really builds up your character. It also builds up your self-confidence, the way you speak with people. Because when you're overseas, you're alone and everything, right? You have to kind of like muster up the courage to make friends, make connections, and get a job on your own as well. So these are all things, right, that really toughen you up and basically helps you to be, when you converse, with senior leaders and everything, right, it comes out much more naturally as well, because you have more things that you can share. Yeah. So that's basically the second principle. The third part is that know your values and stick to it. I think this is really, really important, especially when you are, working in different companies and or working with different people, or going to different countries and stuff like that, right? I would say that the values, you have to stay strong to it, because it's very easy when you're young that you can be moved very easily by different people influencing you. So ultimately, you need to know what is important to you. What are your core values? And especially, since, we have a lot of speakers from HR, and I am also from HR as well. This comes really, really important, because employees, right, see you differently. The management sees you differently as well. So you need to be able to strike a balance, and you need to be able to know and that your opinion matters, and hence voicing out becomes really, really important. I don't mind sharing with all of you that in my course of my career, right, I have actually resigned 3 times after speaking up, and that's because I don't believe in the company practices. So having said that, I always plan ahead. Whatever I do, I always plan ahead. I don't just resign and then don't have a job, but except for the part that I went to the UK. But actually, this is the part that, you need to also understand that, who are you supporting in terms of your dependents and everything. So don't make rash decisions, but also make plans in terms of, what's your plan B, plan C, before making such decision. Having said that, voice out first before you take drastic action. So of course, mine seems to be a bit like, how you even resign for it? I say, yeah, because if my values is different from the company values, right? How am I going to be happy working with that organization itself? So also again, just now I was listening to Siti and she mentioned the same thing as well, that, you want to be happy working, right? Because you're going to spend 80% of your time at work. So it's very important that your values actually resonate with the company values as well. Okay. Choose your boss. I actually really personally like this. Apart from my first job, where obviously I didn't know anyone, I had to, apply for a job and be interviewed. All other subsequent jobs that I've been in, I've actually interviewed the boss. Why do I do that? Because I actually have quite a clear mind in terms of what I want to learn in the company. So usually when I start to think of where I want to go next, right? I think first what I want to learn first. So that's what I always do. And why boss first? Because the boss is the person that you're going to work with daily. Yeah. And this person is going to be the one who either make or break you. So I think it's really important. It's really, really important to work with someone that you feel that the person's vision, the person's mission resonates to what you want to move forward as well. So that's why I actually interview bosses so that I know that, okay, this is the person that I would like to actually work with. Of course, it's important that the company, just like I mentioned about company practices, and yes, those are also equally important as well. But to me, the first thing is actually the boss. Money comes second for me, because I know that it will come along. So at that point in time, right, because I came back from the UK, I already kind of cleared up my debts. So I didn't have to worry that I had new debts. So I think that was one of the key things as well, that, how do we remove these type of barriers? So hence, when I started looking for other jobs, yes, of course, money will come, with the role that you are applying for, but the boss is the most important, and of course, the money should be right as well. So this is how I felt, making decisions in terms of my career. Last but not least, having mentors. I think this is really important. I mean, mentors can be anyone, can be male, female, can be anyone, can be someone older than you, can be someone your peer, can also be someone younger than you. We can actually learn from everyone. I think this is really important, because when we tend to stick to the same group of people, it's not saying that you shouldn't stick to the same group of people, but that's your comfort zone. So you tend to stick to the same type of people who may think the same as you, may have the same hobbies and interests and everything like that, and they can be maintained as your friends or your colleagues. But you need sometimes, right, other people to push you. So these are where your mentors come in. They push your boundaries, they push your thinking process, and this is where you can learn outside of your comfort zone. So hence, it doesn't have to be a formal relationship like a mentor. It can be anyone, it can be your relative, anyone itself. But to identify who the person is, and and what the person can provide this value to you, is by asking. Yeah, because we tend to, when we stick to our own friends or relatives or colleagues, right, we tend to just complain, right? So that's what we tend to do, because it's just gratifying to complain to someone else and everything. So, but instead, right, to have a different relationship, right, to have mentors, right, you shouldn't start complaining with them, obviously, right? But it's to start sharing. I would say start sharing in terms of the situation that you're in, any predicaments and stuff like that, and start to ask questions instead. So asking questions, right, is one form of course, you may know in terms of coaching as well, but it's also one form of you getting information in terms of how should I think differently, or how should I act differently as well. Yeah, so I would say that that's the main difference, and I find that having mentors, whether informally or formally, really helped me in terms of growing in terms of my career itself. So I hope you enjoyed a little bit of me sharing. Of course, everyone's journey is different, and and everyone's career path is different as well. I'm very, very thankful for the people who have helped me. And in terms of the positions that I've been in, I would have to say staying, I didn't mention here, but having good networks help a lot. It means keeping contacts with your previous bosses help a lot. And a lot of my positions, right, are mostly basically reference that, you know, someone has referenced me to someone else. So a lot of the positions are like that. That's how my career path actually grew. So I'm actually very thankful to all my ex-bosses and also current boss for believing in me. And I believe, you know, this is something that, you know, being optimistic, having that trust as well, it will definitely help you in your career. Yeah. Over to you, Shireen.
Thank you so much, Olivia. I totally loved it, especially interview the boss. Looks like all bosses better watch out now. You're going to be getting interviewed. But you know what? I don't disagree with it. I totally agree, because me being a boss, so I would like an employee to interview me, because then we know that we are starting at the same wavelength. Of course, we want them to grow more, because that's what about the bosses always want better staff, right? So that the whole organization can grow together. But the values that you believe in, things that you believe in, you are in line to move forward. Otherwise, hindrance and obstacles will come in between. Is that right, Olivia?
Yeah,
Brilliant.
that is correct.
Olivia, we've got some questions from the audience actually. One of it is, what's the most difficult aspect of breaking the glass ceiling?
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic question. If you ask me, right, I never thought of myself of being the CHRO. So, okay, I don't think that highly. I've always felt that, you know, going to a job, I always wanted to learn something new, right? I have to say, my ex-bosses are the one who have more faith in me than myself. So I know just now I mentioned about self-confidence. I do believe in my ability. It's just that I didn't feel that, you know, that is the job that I wanted to go towards. So I'm just being honest. And it's quite funny that other people may think differently from you. Yeah, so that's why I said that, you know, it's good to keep connections with your ex-bosses, because what they think of you is very different than what your friends think of you, or what your family think of you. And you get different perspective in that sense. So yeah, so I would say breaking the glass ceiling sometimes, if you ask me, is yourself. It's sometimes hard to break out of your own mindset, but hence that's why I say that, you know, having that good connection with people, having that trust that, okay, people are believing in you, and then, you know, just go ahead and try it. You know, if it doesn't work, you know, yeah, so be it, right? This is not life and death situation. So I always think of it that way. I don't take it that, you know, everything is so serious. so yeah, so I would say that anything that's stopping us, right, is ourselves.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that. There's another question. It says, do you think glass ceilings merely are a metaphor here in Malaysia, or something that is genuinely happening here?
Okay, that's also a very good question. I guess it depends on the person in terms of the companies that they have worked in and what they have actually experienced. Because for me, right, I've mentioned this to you, Shireen, before. I've never had that experience before. I mean, of course, when I was young, you know, that's the experience I gained, but I never look at it that, you know, that I'm a victim. So to me, that's a different type of way or mindset or mentality that I actually have. So whichever company that I work in, right, where I see that, okay, it's male dominated, I don't really take it as that, you know, it's bad for me. I don't take it at all. So to me, it's more of that, okay, how do instead I look at it as a challenge. So I look at it as it, and to say that, you know, how do I overcome this, right? You know, like this person is, you know, acting a different way, you know, towards females or whatever, but, you know, do I need to make friends? I mean, I think is to keep that emotion level low is quite important when you are working in a male dominated industry, is to keep your emotion low, because you have to be very calm and very objective when you actually deal with them. And and to also, showcase that, you can also think like them as well. So I think it's a little bit different dealing with them, but I have to tell you, I actually enjoy working with both male and female. I have no issues at all. And just take it as that, that it's the person's personality, it's not the gender, if you get what I mean, because there are very difficult female bosses as well. So to me, right, it's really the person. Doesn't matter whether it's male or female. So I understand that, maybe other people may have that different experience because, they are asking that, in Malaysia, do we actually have this? And possibly, there are possible, in other companies that you really feel that, why am I being bypassed, for this promotion? I'm as good as this other person. Then I would say that, I would say to, this person, then ask. Why? Ask why. Don't keep quiet, but ask why. And ask, how do I get the promotion then? If, can you articulate that to me? So you need to question it. So you cannot be shy, because I can just tell you, males are not shy. They are very confident to tell the bosses exactly what they want. So as female, we need to also feel the same, that we also feel empowered in the sense that we can also ask the same. So if your boss answers you and say that, oh, I don't know why, or doesn't have an answer for you and anything, then you kind of know your answer that, is this the right boss for me? So always try first and don't give up. It means that you should try. Don't just resign because, you feel that, you've been victimized, but instead, right, always ask, don't give up first until you kind of like explore or exhausted all your options. Then only say that, okay, I think it's enough for me, in this organization, I will look for another organization or someone else who can bring me up to that level. So I know that a lot of things that we are saying that, companies should do this and that, but if you ask me, right, if you really want to break the glass ceiling, you have to depend on yourself first.
So in other words, if it is to be, it is up to me, right? Yeah. So Olivia, we have another question, which is,
sorry, Shereen, I can't really hear you.
No worries. We have another question, Olivia. How to work with difficult bosses? Can you give some suggestion and advice by Azia?
Azealia, why are you asking me such a hard question? I have difficult bosses before, and they have been females. Yeah, very strange, right? But yes, a lot of my difficult bosses have been females, unfortunately. And it doesn't mean that, all female bosses, I'm not generalizing anything, it's just my experience. So I have had, and surprisingly, right, I can work with all of them, even though they are difficult. So other people term them as difficult, but I can actually work with them. I think it's getting to know why they're difficult. What basically, is really getting to know, right, what makes them happy. I would say that is a little things that, that's why I say observation is very important. Observation and listening skills, and see that, what makes them happy, like, little things. It could be little things. It could be like you helping out, they're having problems with their computer. I'm just giving you an example only, and you hearing them that they're having problems, and you say, hey, do you need some help? Something like that. These are all things, right, they will actually appreciate. I mean, any bosses, okay, whether female or male, that they will actually appreciate, because you are being proactive. So difficult bosses, right, there is a reason. It could be that their standards are very high. That's one of it. But you have to distinguish, right, whether is it standards very high, or they are actually generally a mean person. So I wouldn't encourage you to continue working with someone who's like, abusive to you. Please stay away from there. But if the difficult bosses is more of because of the standards, right, have more open communication with them. Sometimes, right, they also find it very hard to articulate in terms of what they expect. So it's good to be kind of upfront with them and say that, okay, boss, I see that you are unhappy with the work that I gave you and everything. Maybe we can sit down, we can go through, so I actually understand exactly, what you're unhappy with, because perhaps from the email, I couldn't really understand it. So this is better for me in the long run. So you have to speak to them in that way to not undermine in terms of what they have written, but to really try to get to know their perspective. And this is the best way, because it's not only about dealing with difficult boss, right? But it's also sometimes, right, dealing with difficult customer. So it's all the same way of how you treat it. Like, for instance, you have a difficult customer, how you want to talk to them can be quite similar in terms of how you want to talk to a boss, or maybe even a family, right? You are married to your in-laws and your in-laws are difficult. It can happen anyway. And it's very important, right, to have this upfront conversation, which sometimes, right, they don't realize that they are being difficult to you. They don't think that they are difficult, actually. So having that honest conversation is very important, but you being open as well to what they have to share.
Thanks so much, Olivia, for such a detailed answer to that difficult question. And with that, I really thank you for joining us today and sharing so much of valuable stuff, and also your story. That was so interesting. Thanks so much, Olivia.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye. So, wow, so much you have learned. So what to summarize a little bit about what Olivia said is, to break the glass ceiling is not to have those limitations in our mind also. If it is to be, it is up to me. So if we believe you can do it, so go get it done. Write your 100 bucket lists and start checking them out one by one. And I'm sure you guys are ready for us to introduce the other speaker for the day. And if you are, please give us some thumbs up, and then I will know that you are ready for me to introduce the next speaker for the day. One of the main issues that concern most working women in balancing between work and family. I'm sure a lot of you are excited about this topic. How to balance between work and family. Those are questions in the marketplace that we hear a lot. Today, we have Datuk Grace Chia Hoyen, the National Vice President of SME Malaysia, to talk with us about balancing work and family. The floor is yours, Datuk.
Hello, good morning. Well, I'm Grace. So my topic is how to break the bias for balancing work and family. Well, I work for a few Fortune 500 listed Fortune 500 listed financial banks, international banks, in the past 23 years. So I grew up from a very management training and to one of the top senior management in the organizations. Been through a lot, especially in the international banks and those days, especially those are 20 over years ago. This industry has been more man culture rather than female culture. In the journey, it actually taught me a lot, because I will not want to surrender and to the environment. I want to be one of the top. So I made a vow to myself, I want to be one of the top. So I start to observe. And how to communicate and how to be a good and strong leaders. And I don't term myself as a female. I term myself will be a good and strong leader. So what I concluded is, I want to be a strong woman rather than a powerful woman. To me, I observed that powerful woman is something that is about very forcing, very forcing, and very structured. But a strong woman is I find that if I want to be a strong woman, I have to balance my life. So balancing work and life is something that I wish to achieve, but yet I still want to climb the ladder. So in my past 20 over years, I find brain power is extremely important. Meaning to say that in any negative environment, it's ourselves. And I set my mind. The moment I set my mind, I will not set short-term objective. I will always set long-term objective. And I will tell myself that I will motivate myself. I will not be influenced by the environment, and I will move. And whoever want to give me a negative energy, I will take it. I will study it, I will analyze it, and I will tell myself, I want to be a better person. I will not salute to your negative energy. And I want to prove to you that I will be one leader and I will be one of the strong leaders, strong women that follow my vision, which is I want to have my work and also want to have my family. So the second thing is I find that time management is extremely important. I will not sacrifice my family, my personal life, and also my hobbies just because of work. Because I believe that a strong woman, they have to be strong in and enjoy every moment, including the family. So I usually plan my time super well, and I will have my time for hobbies, my time for family, my time for my work, and I go for quality, I don't go for quantity. Because I believe that it's a result. It's not how long you work, it's about how you deliver the result. So, and when I work, I will pay 100% attention on work. I will not get disturbed by others. When I play, I will play very hard. When I'm with my family, I will stay and happy with my family. Because it's a time management and it's a brain power to manage our brain, to focus and to enjoy the moment. And the most important thing is we need to know how to communicate. You see, communicate is not only limited to your bosses, not limited to your peers, your team, your staff, your subordinates, but also your family. The most important thing is I communicate to myself. Every morning, I will talk to myself what I need to do for the day. I talk first because I need to do a time management. And I will communicate to myself in order for me to communicate with others. Because I will not simply communicate with the negative energy, because energy should be start from me. If I face a person who are very negative, I will use a positive energy to influence the person. And I believe that it is the energy to help an effective communication. Well, I would say that I thought this is only happened to me. I start to observe those very successful women in the financial industry and also locally and internationally. I realized that all of them are more or less having the same brain power as me. And they are very focused and their language is always very positive. They will start with the positive language. They will not start with negative language, because whatever you come from your brain, if you speak negatively, meaning to say that you yourself are also negative. So positive language becomes very important to motivate myself and motivate others as well. And because 20 odd years ago, all my bosses, most of them are men. But 10 years later, I realized that a lot of women start to actually climb the ladders, and I was one of them. And I give opportunities to more people, but again, you see, we can give opportunity. The bosses can give opportunity to anyone, but it is us to learn, to continue learning, because learning is lifetime. We have to continue to learn, and we have to continue to grab the opportunity. I noticed that women has one weak point, which is they wait for the opportunity to put on the table, then they grab. No, don't. I mean, we have to go and look for the opportunities, and we have to learn how. If you already knew the opportunity, you have to ask yourself, how can I ready myself for the opportunities? So again, this is us. Obviously, I believe that if the organizations come with a right culture is also very important. So organization culture to support women is very important. HR play an extremely important role, because I believe that HR is not only giving payroll. Besides the recruitment, I mean, HR can say that, oh, I give the opportunity to recruit equal sex and so forth. But however, after you have recruited the person, what about the training? Can we actually give an equal training to everyone and make sure that we also give an extra training to women how to communicate? Because if you look at today's HR training related to communication skill are very generic to business communication. But communication is an art. How are we going to communicate with our bosses, especially if the bosses are opposite is opposite sex and so forth? Because women and men, they have generally the communications way is a bit different. So we have to learn to guide the women how to do a right communications. Likewise, also guide the men how to do a right communications with the women. So it's actually both ways. And then second thing is a top-down approach, meaning to say that besides the culture, we can talk about policies. Organization can talk about policy, but the most important thing is execution. You can claim that company can claim that I have a very strong cultures to support women, but that is policy. The most important thing is execution. And I believe that execution is always from top down, because opportunity is equal, and who is giving us the opportunity is the bosses. I must say that in my past 23 years, I've been through ladies, female and male bosses, and both of them actually very understand. They actually give me the opportunities, and they were very flexible. And when I observe their right behavior, I realized that they've been through a very thorough, intensive training and bring them to very effective leaders. So effective leaders give an effective team, develop effective team, and also develop effective subordinate for succession plan. Peer supports are equally important, because you will not be in the organization. You will not be only your boss and yourself, but it's you and your team and your colleagues. We have to communicate and to seek for mutual understanding, so that you will live in the positive environment and grow together. Well, family is very important, because when you want to climb the ladder, when you want to climb the career, and especially you want, because I'm not going to sacrifice my family, I'm not going to sacrifice my career. I want both. So I need to strike a balance. So I learned that I failed before. So at the end, when I was in my balcony, my dancing balcony, which is a space in the corporate, we always say a dancing balcony, meaning to say that we go to a space to start to reflect. Then I realized that it's a communication. I need to let my family to understand my career aspiration. Likewise, I also need to understand what they want. Then we strike a balance, we come to a mutual agreement, and we plan the time management together. And the most important thing is focus. You want to play hard. You want to travel, you travel hard. You want to enjoy life, you want to go for whatever restaurant, enjoy. Don't go to a restaurant and start to actually do work. And when the food arrives, then you start to eat. Not this way. So that is how I see it. For career women, if you want to, it's very difficult for us to have a work and also family. We have to strike a balance. So if you want to sacrifice, if you only go for work, you have to sacrifice your family. If you want to go for family, then you have to sacrifice your work. But for me, I am not greedy. So hence, I strike a balance. I communicate with my bosses, my peers, and I make sure they understand me, because I want to have both. And I have transformed myself to become a business person. I started my business a few years ago, and I practice what I practiced when I was in a corporate. So today in my small companies, I actually have women more than men. It is not because I'm biased, only hire women. I actually go for behavior. I go for attitude. I go for positive attitude. To me, so long as if my team come with a positive attitude, it will help me it will help the team to have a positive energy, and it will help the business to sustain. So that is my personal opinion. Well, Shirley, over to you.
Wow, I was just immersing myself into the topic, because everything that you said went ouch to me, because I'm a workaholic and I have a family. I hope my husband doesn't see this, because I'll be killed. But we've got some good questions from the audience. One of it is, how else can we strike a balance between work and life when our phone is constantly bombarded with WhatsApp messages from managers and co-workers? This is from Nur Nadra.
This is a very good question. Well, WhatsApp messages or even technology comes in, or digitalization comes in not too long ago. So during my time, I actually grew my career from using the normal phone, fax, then transformed to mobile phone. Then today is a smartphone. So WhatsApp actually came into the working environment not too long ago. But it rose very fast. It became the way of communication. But who is holding the messages is us. You see, I am a workaholic. I am a workaholic, but it is me to give out some of the time for my family. So you see, a workaholic, they will have their own behavior. Hence, this is why I mentioned that time management become very important. I can be super workaholic when I set the time for work. But I play very hard when I set the time for family. So WhatsApp messages is a group chat. Everyone can actually post question in, right? My communications with my peers and even though my staff and so forth, I will tell them that don't bother me if the messages is only to update me. I will read when I have time. But if this is so urgent, give me a call. Because WhatsApp, we are the one who managing that WhatsApp. But the rules of WhatsApp messages, the group chat that we set up, we have to actually put in the rules, and everyone must understand. And a lot of times, if you are the leader, we are the one who help to set the rules, because if we have family, other people also have family, right? I have a habit to, because I'm an owl person, I have a habit to work at night because my brain will work very well. And I told my staff and even though my colleagues, I just mentioned to them, when I WhatsApp you, don't bother to read until 9 o'clock the next day. Because when I WhatsApp doesn't mean that I expect you to read. A lot of times is we have to set the rules and make everyone understand. If it happens that you have the what we call the bosses who have certain because I understand there are bosses who want you to read immediately. I believe that we can actually mention to the boss to set the rules, and whoever in the group chat will appreciate that. I choose to read the WhatsApp time, and I choose not to read. So it's us.
That's a great answer. I totally agree because, like you said, if it's really urgent, call. If it's not urgent, WhatsApp. I will read it at my own time. I think I'm going to practice that too from now on. Yeah. And then we've got another question, Dr. Grace. What's your opinion about behind every successful woman, there is another woman doing the work?
Another woman doing the work, meaning to say that I would like to define I would like to have more understanding about the questions. Is this referring to delegate the job, or are you referring this as a homemaker? Meaning to say, because I received similar questions previously when they mentioned that another woman doing the work is like, you hire domestic workers and to help you to work at home so that you can focus. I just wanted to know if this are the questions, or in the workplace, I delegate the work to another woman. But perhaps what I can do is I answer both. I don't have a homemaker. And I enjoy my family, and I enjoy being a homemaker as well. Meaning to say that I do my housework, because you see, in my opinion, working and family life is not about only with the children. It's about you enjoying cooking, cook for family, and do the housework, sweep the floor, and back to yourself. So I do not have the homemaker at home. And and by the way, I'm a single mother, so it's even tougher. Yeah. So, and I believe that time management is very important. Is how we perceive and how we do it, and we should go for quality but not quantity, right? But if let's say this come back to in the organization, we can also if you are if you have the opportunity, give opportunity to another woman, and or you have a team of women who actually do the work but not the men, that one I disagree. In my opinion, I would say that a successful woman or successful leader, behind her is a team of positive and successful women and men. It is not only women, or it is not only women, it is not only men. It is a team of women and men, because we go by behavior.
That is brilliantly answered, Dato. I really like the answer. So we've come to the end of this segment, and I really like to thank you so much, because I'm sure a lot of the women have related very well to you, because these are things that women struggle with, balancing both between being a mom, a wife, a sister, a daughter, they do struggle. So it was very relatable. Thank you so much for your time, Dato.
Thank you.
Bye. All right. Wow, that was amazing. So excited. So many more wonderful speakers that we have for the day. Well, we see there are so many new people who have just come into the show. We have got about 400 over participants for the day, when I actually mentioned about 130 at the beginning of the session, but we already have about 400 over people who are in the show currently. So for those who just joined, I would really appreciate if you can fill up the attendance list, because this will help you get into the final lucky draw of the day, which happens at the end of the session. And it will also allow you to get the e-certificate. So don't forget to fill it up. The link will be put into the chat box. So I'm sure you all are ready. And without further ado, I would like to invite the Vice President, Human Resources of Infineon Technologies, who has been instrumental in supporting and promoting the female agenda, Terry Koo, to give a speech on developing female leadership. Please help me welcome Terry Koo.
Hi, a very good morning to everyone here. Thanks, Irene, for your introductions, and also to UTM, Malaysia HR Forum, and Compass My Asia for having me here on the topic on developing female leadership. Yeah. So just now, sorry, can you all see my slide? Just to check. So how to?
Just give us a couple of seconds. Terry, just back end, you want to just WhatsApp the slides in the group and they will help you share.
Hold on.
Yeah, sure. So guys, while waiting for Terry, how do you like the session? Comment in the chat box. We'd like to hear from you how your feedback is so far. Is there anything else that you all want us to speak about in our next International Women's Conference? Yeah, we're thinking about next year already, but we always try to plan ahead. So share with us how you're feeling about this whole event as of now. We are so elated. From 130 that registered, we are having 400 over people who are actually watching, tuned in right now. So yeah, spread the word around, because then next year there is more people and we are always lining up fabulous speakers. So put in the chat box, how are you feeling about the session? And if you have any idea about what you want to hear next year, let us know. We are so open to accepting any feedback. Feedbacks are always valuable. Okay. So it's 11:33. I wonder if any of you are hungry already. It's about lunchtime. Oh, my colleague sitting in front of me put up his hand. Poor guy. I'll toss him some food shortly, maybe some sweets. So guys, I got a question actually. This is a very simple question. I'm sure all of you know it, but let's see whether everyone gets it right. Shall we? Let's play a game while waiting. So the game is type in the chat box, what is the theme? What is the theme of this year's Women International Day? Come, let it flood in. I want to know. I want to know whether we all got it right. Because there's some people who actually get it's correct, but there's one part that gets it wrong. So type it out. Yay, that's right. Thank you, Azlin. Who else? Who else? Good afternoon from all speakers. We need to break the bias. Is that it? I don't know. I'm not saying anything. Come, share with us more. Gender equality today for sustainable tomorrow. Thanks, Aisha. Is that something that you would like to cover for next year? You would like us to cover for next year? Our team is taking note of what you all would love to hear more for next year. All right. And so right now, Terry is ready to rock and roll. So I will hand the stage over to Terry.
I'm so sorry for some technical issues. Yeah. So again, very good morning. Yeah, and thanks, Serene, and so sorry for the interruption just now. As we heard a lot of just now the great speaker talking about gender diversity, now it's my turn to see that how can we as a leader or the company can support this developing female leadership. So the journey of developing female leadership in the organization is a very long process, yeah, that involves inspiring, influencing, and instilling the culture of gender equality in the organizations. In general, our industry as a semiconductor and also a manufacturing line has often been dominated by more males than female staff or employees. However, that doesn't mean only the males can provide the best solution, innovation decision, or even in leading a team. Yeah. The change of the mindset must start from the top leadership and cascading down to other employee and subordinates in the company. We must emphasize an inclusiveness, focus more on merit, eliminate gender stereotyping, and remove any kind of bias at the workplace. And it is very important that we are conscious about unconscious biases that still exist in many of us, whether we like to admit it or not, including myself. And I think all of you will agree with me. So let me walk you through today's agenda as shown in the slides. First, I will talk about how we can foster gender diversity, which involves both organizational as well as personal development. Next, we will discuss on our existing global guidance and encourage local specifications at the workplace. Then we will look into how we can contribute as a leader to support gender diversity. Finally, I'll open the floor for Q&A sessions at the end. In terms of fostering gender diversity, we look into two parts. Firstly, it's about organization culture. What is this organization culture? Organizational and culture is an invisible but powerful force that influences the behavior of the people. Hence, we need to enable to support diversity by looking into leadership, culture, and processes. Create an inclusive working environment and culture so that our employee will feel that they can contribute towards the company with equal opportunities. However, we should not only emphasize on organization and culture alone, but we also have the responsibility to focus on personal development of potential talents. Firstly, we need to establish development plans for potential female leaders, follow up development measures, and career projection from time to time. For example, if we spot or identify someone with great potential, we need to plan out both short-term and long-term development plan for her. Besides that, we need to show transparency by communicating to them and letting them know the expectation of the company in developing them to take up the leadership role through career motivation, skill, and behavior, as well as experience and visibility. A focus on organization culture combined with targeted leadership training program for women can make a dramatic differences. Development and support can help individual women better navigate challenges and prepare them for more senior roles. To foster your diverse talent, you need to develop your talent readiness and competence holistically using 70-20-10 framework. I believe this framework is not new to all of us, yeah? And this framework is not just a numeric sequences. However, this is fundamental concept with different view of work, performance, and learning. 70% is on experiential learning. This involves real life and on-the-job experience, tasks, and problem solving. Experiential learning is the most important aspect of any learning and development plans as it comes along with personal and professional growth and visibility. Whereas 20% is on social learning through feedback and by observing and working with role models and getting access to networks. The remaining 10% is on formal learning, such as formal training and skill development. In addition, we can make use of various tools and instruments offered to develop potential talents. So this is some of the example that in Infineon, this is some of the roadmap that we plan out for the leadership training. Yeah. Firstly, we can be done through career motivation, whereby we can offer them guidance through coaching and mentoring. And this was presented with the previous speaker with very great insight. Yeah? And we can also help them identify and develop their personal potential. We call it as a IDPP, in order to develop their strength and identify any areas of improvement. In the second bucket, we talk about skill and behavior. Yeah, we need to invest potential talents in preparations for them to acquire leadership skill through intensive training educational program. This can be done through Infineon Leadership's excellent program. We call it as elated, leadership dialogue, as well as 360-degree feedback. With regards to experience and visibility, this can be done through project assignment that enable your potential talents to grow through new tasks and specific experience. Job rotations or job enrichment will also allow your potential and future talent to learn from new tasks and challenges. Moreover, international assignments such as short-term assignment or swapping enable your talent to learn from working in another culture. Furthermore, networking and dialogue platform should be established to foster knowledge sharing and strengthen the presence of women. For Infineon, we established the Women Leadership Network for potential women leaders to get together to share their experience and solutions, get insight from their higher level female leaders in resolving any kind of conflicts, especially on work-life balance. Often, they gain motivation from senior and express their concern to take the challenge in order to reach greater height. And we also have this gender diversity network in Infineon Global, where women can get support around the world pertaining to gender workforce topic. And locally, we also have these local talent programs, especially designed for our talents, a potential leader to go through this program. And this also can be used for this foster gender diversity. Infineon provide platform for them to be more visible internally as well as externally. For example, through project assignment, participation in advisory group, encourage them to share their knowledge, their experience, their expertise, and encourage them to build network within or outside the company. As a leader, we play a very important role by contributing to support gender diversity with a focus on talent development in 3 aspects. Yeah. Firstly, on strategy and leadership, we need to create an understanding for the overall purpose and benefit of fostering diversity and provide equal opportunities. Besides that, we should set clear expectations with respect of gender diversity in our organization or team. Also, we need to review the percentage of women across the leadership level in our organizations and discuss with our team. This includes setting a female leadership target, which allows them to have better directions and enable transformations of ideology into actions. And we can also start by looking into our recruitment process, hiring, promotions, and sustaining the existing female leaders. With regard to culture and people, we need to actively develop our potential talents and identify any potential barriers of their career progression, as well as implement measures to remove them. For example, by supporting part-time leadership position, we can also create attractive working conditions and be a role model for fostering diverse talent. Next, we need to have some tools and processes to support gender diversity. we should be familiar with all the available tools and instruments offered at the local and global level. Be sure to make use of them efficiently to foster equal opportunity and work-life balance. Also, make gender diversity a key topic during performance management review, including succession planning from time to time, and actively support diverse talent in our organizations. So in conclusion, diversity and inclusion begin with us. At Infineon, we have this statement to express the value we see in diversity and inclusion because it is our conviction that this is not just the right thing to do, but also a business imperative that positively impact our bottom line. We embrace the power of diversity to make Infineon more successful through better decision, innovations, higher employee engagement, and increased profits. Last but not least, as we celebrate International Women's Day with the theme of Break the Bias this year, let us be reminded to always show an unbiased approach to our female colleagues and try to work together towards reducing any biased attitude at our workplace. Thank you. Pass back to you, Serene.
Thank you for a great speech, Terry, and also sharing with us the Infineon roadmap. That is so valuable and so deep. Thanks so much for that. We have a few questions from the audience, actually, Terry. One of it is, what are your thoughts on having more women in the C-suite?
Thought on having more. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. So actually, with this, I can say that the diversity and inclusion is very good for the team. It increases creativity and innovations. Yeah. Company that with higher diversity level get more revenue from new product and services. Yeah. Under this inclusive leadership, employee are 3.5 times more likely to contribute in full innovation potential and 39% more likely to be engaged. Yeah. So I can see that with these women in C-suite level, we can have more creativities and innovations. At the same time, we also can see better problem solving and decision making. Yeah, because the team come together to make a better decisions that contribute than individuals. Yeah, with this diverse team that make a better decision compared to individual. And with that, as I mentioned in just now as well, this is also with these women in C-suites, it also can create higher employee engagement. Yeah, and this also provides employee satisfaction and also reduce conflict between groups, improving collaboration and loyalty. And last but not least, of course, as a business, we increase profit. Yeah, that is most important.
That's right. So there's so much of benefits in having women in the C-suite, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Terry, we've got another question. There is still a perception that only men can be great leaders. What are your thoughts on it? I would like to answer first. First is to break the bias. That's why we are here today. But over to you, Terry.
This is how to, we really need to have a breakthrough on this mindset. Yeah. And we need to cultivate an inclusive working environment where everyone can contribute, not only on male, but also for female. Yeah. So first of all, we need to be aware of unconscious bias. Yeah. And of course, once we have this awareness, we need to cascade down this awareness to the team to let all the people know that this is the unacceptable. Yeah. and we built a space of psychological safety. Yeah, in this, that we can able to share the belief that the team have safe for interpersonal risk taking. It also represent a sense of confidence that the team will not embarrass, reject, or punish or somewhere for speaking up. This is also the concept that we ensure connective diversity within the team. Yeah, and of course, making this gender diversity or inclusiveness into educational is also very important part. This is also create a mandatory. We can create a mandatory training for everyone, so that we can able to support gender issues. Yeah. And with that, we also have this in Infineon. Actually, we also come out with this insight discovery sessions. This is also talking about personality test, yeah, to understand ourselves. So then we can able to understand the other party as well. Yeah. So whether you are male to understand the female, female to understand the male. Yeah. And of course, last but not least, you need to get to know your D&I data. Yeah. So then, as a leader, we can work together hand in hand with the team to achieve this environment. Yeah. Thanks. Hope I answered the questions.
That's a great answer, very detailed to that question, actually. So again, thanks so much, Terry, for being with us today and sharing some valuable tips and also the roadmap, especially on developing female leadership. So thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
Wow. I've got so much of notes. I don't know where to start after this. I'm sure you too, isn't it? Oh, well, let's move on to the next speaker. And the next speaker, as I mentioned earlier, bias is part of today's reality. It can happen anytime, anywhere, and at any level. Well, the workplace is definitely no exception, right? For our last but definitely not the least segment of the day, we have Ang Wena, the Executive Director of Global Employer Services of Deloitte Malaysia and Southeast Asia Diversity, Equality and Inclusion Leader of Deloitte Southeast Asia, to share with us on how inclusive leaders can help break the bias. Help me welcome Ang Wena onto stage.
Thank you very much, Shireen, for having me today. And indeed, I think it's a very powerful hour, especially you're juggling between a hungry stomach and listening to the most, I wouldn't say most, but hopefully insightful things that we can share with you. So today, on what I'm going to share, it's how inclusive leaders can help to break the bias. And if you take note on the wordings, we don't even just mention about leaders, but we want to emphasize on inclusive leaders. And this is something that we have developed in Deloitte. Let me share in the next slide. This is what we call the 6 signature traits. Now, way back, long time, if you recall, maybe I'm not too sure how many of you, but when we were young, our parents always tell us that, if you look for a better half, make sure you've got the important C's, credit card, condominium, country clubs, and all that. Now, if I were to relate to as equally important of these 6 signature traits, which coincidentally have the C's, this is where I want to emphasize that when Deloitte developed this was also validated by us collecting data from over 1,000 leaders. And it was also evaluated by 10,000 raters as well. So you've got leaders, you've got the evaluators, and each of this definition of the C, I will go through it shortly. But most important point I want to emphasize here is how important is the behavior of leaders and managers? Well, the research actually shows that it is important, so important that it makes up of at least 70% of the difference between employees who report they feel highly included and those that they do not, right? So this is a very phenomenal difference and therefore reflects even the power of inclusive leadership. So if you look at how important leaders and even managers, their role on the individual experience of inclusion, Deloitte's research, we have spent more than 5 years in actually looking at the unique capability of inclusive leaders, and therefore came out with this new framework. We call it the 6 signature traits of inclusive leadership, which actually I would say was developed very purposefully and rigorously to do what? In actually to enable organizations to, number one, prepare themselves to be able to assess what's their level, what's the organization level of maturity. Yeah. Number two, how then do we activate the leaders, making them aware, making them interested, and making them becoming more inclusive? Number three, how then do we assess leaders' inclusive leadership capabilities? Number four, how do we then develop their leadership capabilities as well, right? And then what we will do is calibrate. We need to calibrate the group's collective inclusive leadership strength and development area as well. And last but not least, reinforce. It's always the carrot and the stick. You reinforce by aligning to broader ecosystem. For example, it could be KPIs, it could be competency frameworks and rewards. So with this whole framework, let me just deep dive into each of these traits and maybe share with you some stories that you may be able to relate. And you can see that these traits, it's not necessarily in the workplace. It can be in our daily lives. It can be in the school. It can be in the family, right? So let's move to the next slide, please. So I'll start off with commitment, right? And if you see that commitment, specifically on commitment to diversity and inclusion, and of course, in the business context, it is a very core important, right? And for those of our leaders who were interviewed, they actually felt that, how can one be identified to be highly inclusive? They actually describe themselves as, number one, in terms of personal values, whether, do they align their personal values to inclusion, for example, in terms of fairness, in terms of respect. And number two, Terry mentioned about, is there a business case? Yeah. Do the leaders believe that there is a business case that I should have a inclusive behavior, right? Number three, prioritization. How do I put time and energy towards being an inclusive leader, right? I mean, inclusion and equality and diversity, these have been the buzzwords in the past, I think greatly, probably 2 to 3 years ago. But talking is one thing. How do you put that into action? And number four, bravery. Do you dare to speak up? Do you dare to challenge the status quo if you notice that certain actions do not support inclusion, right? So one of these things that when I recall and when we started this journey on commitment, I reflect on the time when I had a secondment to Japan, yeah, and the Japanese partner, and you think that being the boss, oh, he goes home early, okay, he leaves the work to all the teams. But the Japanese partner, even at that time, close to 28 years ago, he makes sure that everybody works and stays on. And if need to stay on, it's not that he himself goes back early, but as a team, everybody goes back together to making sure that you go home safe, to making sure that you do not miss the last train. And as a leader, he makes sure that everybody's well-being is taken care of. So it's that feel-good feeling that you can sense and you can see the behavior coming out from the leader, right? Now, from commitment, I move to the next slide. We call it the courage, right? And just now, remember I said on bravery, do you dare to speak up? Do you dare or have the courage to be humble and show yourself that you are equally vulnerable? Yeah. And to say that, look, I have not been as inclusive as I could be. And are you humble enough to even say you're sorry when you're making mistakes? Are you humble enough to help encourage others to do the same, right? So again, storyline on this was in the team members. We could see, like, for example, one of the members was usually a little bit not in sync in working together with the team, but still delivering. And you can see that every time the delivery hours of the work usually comes towards the later part of the night. So when the team actually, I would say the team was brave enough to actually ask, hey, are you all right? To ask that particular member, is there anything why you're always delivering work in the later of the night? And then it was, again, encouraging of the member itself to then share that, hey, I'm a single mother, I've got to take care of the family, but I'm equally committed to the team and the project, and therefore I will still deliver. Now, the team themselves then broke up the pieces more in line and in sync to manage the timing of this member. And at the end of the day, the project came out well. So again, a illustration of inclusive leadership doesn't mean we go rah, rah, rah all the time. Again, are we encouraged enough? Are we humble enough to admit that we are weak? Are we strong enough to even ask for help? Right? Now, we talked about commitment, we talked about courage. I want to talk about the third C, which is cognizant of bias. Now, this is something I think very, very relatable, right? And even when young, I would say, and probably at that time, our grandmother or grand-aunts and all that, some of you may be able to relate as well when it says, if you don't finish this, if you don't listen to this, that uncle dark skin one will come and capture you and put you into a dark place, right? And then you feel so scared, and then you will definitely listen. But then, as you grow up, you say, why uncle dark skin? Why are they so biased against uncle dark skin, right? So, which means, number one, we've got to be, as leaders, or even our own self, we've got to be deeply aware of our own blind spots. And I'm sure in the recent days, you probably read an article to say, where you see a driver, right? And the driver drove horrendously and really, the first thing you will say is probably women driver, right? Is it necessary so? It needs to be women? And one day for sure, my husband actually softly said that, and when passed by the car, it's actually a guy. So it's like, oops, that's it. There you go, right? So the thing is, for us to be aware of the blind spot and making sure that we do something about it, right? And to ensure that we and the system are fair, right? So in terms of acceptance that we know, but the thing it's a bit hard, right? It is hard because everybody thinks that everybody else, not us, have more biases than ourselves, right? And number two, in terms of self-regulation, we should monitor and we should modify our own behavior to reduce that impact, right? How do we do that? Get feedback, right? And number three, in terms of fair play or fairness, we must make sure that we are making fair decisions. For example, in the areas of promotions or even in terms of work allocations, right? So just because someone, let's say when you're reviewing an application for job, and just because someone happens to come from your alma mater, straight away you'll say, definitely I want that person, because we know that persons coming from that particular university definitely can do the best work. But are you giving chances to others who may not come from the same alma mater, right? And likewise in the workplace as well, just because someone have been performing well and therefore very naturally leaders will go to the same person. But again, are we forgetting the strength of others and the hidden gems that we may not uncover unless we ourselves exhibit inclusive behavior? Okay, so we talked about commitment, we talked about courage, we talked about cognizance of bias. Now a little bit deep dive on maybe a little bit to share about cognizance of bias. This is what I've just said a lot about a mini-me bias. You tend to want to choose someone who is like your clone, right? But this is forgoing the discovery of hidden gems of people that you may not know that could actually bring in better performance, better innovative ideas, as what Terry has mentioned earlier, right? And also be mindful of flat battery bias. Some of us are early birds in the morning, some of us prefer late nights, and of course, sometimes decisions are forced onto you. And then just because your sugar level is low and you're tired and you just, okay, I'll just approve it. But be mindful, because decisions under such situations can actually be very harmful. Yeah. And the last, of course, again, a very common one, as in as I suspected bias. Typically, what's the number? I told you so, right? You never listen to me. But the thing is, have you not given equal opportunity for others just because you already have a preconceived bias? All right. So it's very difficult for us, or very important, I would say, for us to overcome this, for us to know our hidden biases. And how do you know your blind spots? Ask, seek feedback, because people outside will be able to see and therefore give you more insights. Yeah. And questions that you can ask is, of course, tell me more, right? Be the last one to speak, but ask, tell me more, right? And then create that space for others to say that, look, I may be wrong. What do you think? Yeah. And also to show others that you care, like, hey, I want to get better at identifying my own spots. Can you help me, please? Right. So these are little tips that you can overcome the biasness. Now, going on to the fourth C, curiosity, right? Curiosity is actually wanting to know more, right? Deeply curious about what other people think. What's their point of view, right? To demonstrate that you actually have an open mind, an open heart, open ears equally, and desire to understand how people actually view and experience the world, and you actually have a tolerance for ambiguity, right? So one thing, it's on openness. You are open to new and different ideas, and ideas need not necessarily be right or wrong, right? It's just getting that flow, sharing, and then be very, very comfortable to even operate in a very uncertain environment, because everybody is navigating through that, right? But then we know that if we have each other and if we ask for help, definitely the path can be even clearer. Empathy definitely is how we actually show the case that we are desirous of wanting to understand how others view, putting ourselves in the shoes of the others, right? In another way, it's like, taking a perspective, getting a perspective of different viewpoints, right? So to me, if curiosity does not kill the cat, it won't kill the cat here, right? It would actually show you more that you are actually being very open to ideas. Yeah. The fifth one is always my all-time favorite, of cultural intelligence. Now, cultural intelligence, especially in where we are in Southeast Asia and AP to a certain extent, that we live and we work together cross-cultural interactions, right? And this is something, it's how are you mindful about the impact on what you have on the sensitivity, and how can you actually function more effectively in these different cultural settings. People think differently, coming from different cultural background. And so with that motivation that you have, do you have that drive to want to understand better, right? And have that confidence to do so. And being aware and therefore have that sensitivity that you know the differences and the similarities between cultures. And equally important is how then do you adapt? By being aware, by being mindful. Importantly is how then do you change your style, right, appropriately where there is a cross-cultural encounter when there is situation that actually requires you to adapt. Yeah, I mean, in my time when I'm born in Singapore, and I had thought that being very open with many of the other races, and coming back to Malaysia. Now, one thing that I had assumed was, ladies standing, for example, saying hello, handshake to a Muslim counterpart was equally okay. It's the same as what we had done in Singapore. But the thing is, the level of tolerance or even respect in terms of Islamic is very, very different here in Malaysia. And therefore, then I got to realize, well, they respect you of friendliness, but they have their different viewpoints on how Islamic religion is, and therefore refrain from shaking hands with ladies, but offering the handshake, right? The heart shake, I would say. So it is by understanding this doesn't mean that we make small or we play down on people who practices certain things because of cultures. But all the more important is how then do we have that courage of respect. Yeah, doesn't mean that we need to force onto others just because our culture is that way. But important is to make sure that there is mutual respect. Yeah. And last but not least, of course, is the act of collaboration. Now, this is, of course, equally important tools. I mean, of course, you start with commitment, and then with the collaboration, wow, that power of where you get the end game of tremendous output in terms of business performance, innovative ideas. You're going to empower the individuals, right? As well as to create and leverage that thinking of diverse group. And I always like this quotient now when we embark on this inclusive leadership. They say what? The old IQ is about how smart you are. I think everybody would agree. But the new IQ is about how smart you make your team. Have a think about that. It's the new IQ. It's how smart. How can you make your team? How smart can you make your team, right? Now, do you work together in terms of team buildings and write on each other's ideas, and how do you solve complex problems? And, the empowerment, and people feel that, yeah, it's not just a top down. It's like, just listen to me, that's it. Do my way and not your way, right? And that psychological safety. Do I feel safe to speak up? Do I feel safe that I have a voice? And that styles and processes can be adapted. And equally important is the team cohesion. Ultimately, we want to have a team that is united, a team that has diverse thinking. So with the 6 traits, equally I encourage you to how to put this into everyday acts of inclusion, right? So the next slides actually tells in a very, very, words could be a little bit too small for you, but you can see in the slides. But I think very importantly, if you look at, whether it's commitment or whether it's courage, cognition of bias. Commitment, of course, you must hold yourself to be accountable. Start by doing a public pledge, right? That you want to break the bias, right? You want to take action to advance on diversity. Courage. Share your own development areas. Showcase that you are weak and you need help, right? And therefore, the other side can also understand how they can complement the strength with you. cognizant of bias, suspend the judgment. Don't say, I told you so. Don't say that, hey, this definitely is because definitely is a great candidate and all that. And I would say that, not only suspending your judgment, but also challenge your own assumption. Right? Now, of course, not forgetting on curiosity, tell me more, right? Rewind and play back. Right? How do you actually reaffirm? By telling others that you're actually listening, right? I hear you, and what you are saying is blah, 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 right? And then, of course, with the cultural intelligence, everybody says, when in Rome, do what Rome does, what the Romans do. But of course, you want to actually understand why is it that Asians or what, they take off their shoes and they don't wear it into the house, but it's the reverse in the Western culture, right? By building cultural intelligence, I think you're actually encouraging multicultural experiences as well, right? And last but not least, of course, in terms of collaboration, and I would say, yeah, of course, we always encourage like little boys and girls, or even our work colleagues. It's like, anybody wants, okay, say something, but you want to give everybody a voice, and therefore you be the one to speak last. And importantly is be that connector, right? Break that barriers, build bridges. You are the best connector to making sure that, come, if you notice someone that is quiet, well, invite them to speak, right? And again, instead of using jargons, keep it simple, keep it plain, keep the conversation going, right? Especially with the young ones, I notice nowadays. It's not that I'm not young anymore, but I actually rely on my daughter, who is 21 years old, to say, what's happening in your generation right now? What are the cool things that you all talk about? And therefore, it makes you very easy to relate to the younger gens, right? So the last slide, I just want to leave with our audience today, if we can move to the next slide, is, right, we talked about recreating inclusive leaders, very important. But again, very important is how then can leaders adopt an inclusive mindset to break that bias. You see the whole stuff of what we can see in how in everyday actions, right? Everyday behaviors. It's not just talk only, it's not just agreeing, but you yourself have to start on your own behaviors. And of course, the whole sessions today, we talk about work-life balance, we talk about commitment, we talk about women equality. But I think in terms of this concept of inclusive leadership is to break that bias and ensure that we've got gender, and we push on that agenda of gender equality for sure. Okay, with that, I end my presentation. Back to you, Shireen. Thank you.
Thank you for such an elaborate explanation, Wena. I'm sure the audience at the back end are saying, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. But because we have a constraint of time, let's answer a question from our audience. We have a question that asks, how inclusiveness helps define your leadership style?
In fact, this is a very prompting one, because I must say, way back when I was younger, I was a real pusher, a real driver. Real. It's like everybody says, wow, you're under Wena, good luck to you, you'll die. But as time flies, times pass and you get feedback, says, Wena, can you not be so tough to us? I know you're trying to get us on that level. But the thing is, we are running behind you. Yeah, we can't catch up with you. And therefore that feedback, and therefore that then encouraged me to continuously seek feedback. And therefore this is what I have been doing in terms with my teams as well. And we even embark on including the junior reps. So sometimes junior reps or junior team members they fear to speak up, right? But if you interject, like they nominate some rep and they can speak to the senior teams and all that, then that itself is what we call, we want to encourage everybody. It's like you have a voice and we want to hear you. So I would say that I'm more subtle now compared to the heydays that I was a real pusher.
That's great to hear. All right. Thanks so much, Rena, for that lovely answer. And thank you again so much for joining us today and sharing about the 6 signature traits with us. We really valued that information that you shared. So thank you so much.
Thank you, my pleasure.
So guys, remember, it's not credit card, condominium, cash, car, and club membership, yeah? It is commitment, courage, cognizance of bias, curiosity, culture, intelligence, and collaboration. So it's the new 6 C's. All right, I'm sure you guys have been waiting because we are coming to the end of the show. And before we come to the end, we are not going to let you all go empty-handed, right? Not everyone. So for those who have not won just now, great news. We have another lucky draw session. And once again, I would like to invite back on stage Rajinder Singh, the director of Compass Mind Asia, to announce the winner and especially to spin the wheel. The wheel is so exciting. Welcome, Rajinder.
Wow, that was an awesome session today with all the wonderful speakers sharing their thoughts, on today's topic of break the bias. That's something definitely I learned a lot because I think the information shared was very insightful, and I hope that you guys also experience the same and take some learnings back that we can all practice and change our biasness. Okay, as we are heading towards the end of the show, all right, and the session, there will be another round of lucky draw, which all of you, some of you have been waiting for. And so, but please stay tuned. After this lucky draw, there will be a final closing remarks by the Malaysian HR Forum, all right, before we end the session. Okay, so moving forward, we have another 8 lucky draws to be won today. Are you guys ready? All right, we will proceed with the spin of wheel again. And the first 2 upcoming lucky draws will be the gift packs from Compass Mind Asia. So can we have the wheel of fortune to be up on screen before we spin? Just hold on a minute. Yeah, the technical team is just sorting it out. Okay, so we will spin for 2 gift packs from Compass Mind Asia. So we are ready now on the click of 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's do the first spin. Let's see who the lucky winner will be this time. All right. And the lucky winner for the gift pack from Compass Mind will be Nurul Atika. Congrats, Nurul. You are the first winner for the gift pack. And we will do subsequently a second spin. Technical team on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's have another spin. Yes, and the wheel is spinning. These are all the names of participants who have registered for the show today. So your names are all there. And the second winner is Khairul bin Ali. Congrats again to you, Khairul. Welcome. So moving forward, we have the next round of gifts. 2 jackets, 2 high quality jackets donated by Malaysian HR Forum. Okay, and these are wonderful jackets that you can probably wear at your workplace when times are cold. And moving forward, so on the count of 3, let's have the first spin. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, let's see who's the winner this time. We've got over 400 participants who have registered for this show. And the winner is Shamil Azri. Congrats, Shamil. You will be getting this in about 2 weeks' time. We will courier this to your place. Moving forward, the second lucky draw, 3, 2, 1. The next lucky winner is Hafiz bin Said. It's very interesting, right? This is actually a Women's Day celebration, but most of the lucky draw winners happen to be guys. So it's very good because a lot of guys are attending this show and they are also learning. It's very good. Congratulations. Hafiz Said. Our next round of gifts will be actually a very interesting book, Discipline at Work, is a guide for managers, sponsored by Mr. Ganapati Ramasamy. All right. So we will spin the wheel now on the count of 3. 1, 2, and 3. Let's go. And the winner for this awesome book, Discipline at Work, will be again Muhammad Khadri bin Saring, another guy. Fantastic. Moving forward, our next round of gift will be the human resource documentation by a very well-known, sponsored by well-known, renowned HR presenter, Mr. Hira Singh. Right? So the book is entitled Human Resource Documentation. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, and 3. Spin the wheel. Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Lucky Draw, rather. And the winner this time is Alicia Fatima. Fantastic. Alicia Fatima binti Ainul. Moving forward, we have the last two gifts. All right, this one now is a motivational book called The Thrive by Pritpal Singh Khosa of Learning Age, sponsored by him. Thank you so much to all the sponsors. And the lucky winner for this particular book will be, here you come, Muhammad Aizat. Muhammad Aizat, congrats to you. And we are coming to the last lucky draw for today. All right. And the book is called Reclaim Right to Success by Siva Nisan. And the wheel has spun. And now we are coming to the last person, last lucky draw of today. And let's see, the winner is, are you ready? The winner is, that's it. Aha, Siti Sarah Ansar. Siti Sarah, congrats to you. And with that, we have come to the conclusion of the lucky draw. We congratulate all the winners who have won. And also, I'd like to once again thank all the sponsors who have sponsored the gifts for this particular lucky draw. I hope all of you had a good time today. And please stay on tune. And I pass you back to Shireen to take this out to the end. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Rajinder, and congratulations to all the winners. It's so exciting to see a lot of male winners in this lucky draw. A reminder to all the winners, we'll be in touch with you via email. So look out for an email from us and provide us your addresses so that we can send the gifts to you within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So look out for the gifts also once you provided your addresses, right? So we're coming towards the end. I'm sure you all are so excited. And if you are waiting to hear our final speaker for today to do the wrap up, please give us some likes and some hearts. While I would like to invite Arul Singara Velu to come on stage to do a wrap up. He is the co-founder of Malaysia HR Forum to give the closing speech for the day. Welcome on stage, Arul.
Good afternoon. So it looks like we had quite a participation today. We did not expect to have almost 450 participants. But nevertheless, let me just do a very quick wrap up of what our speakers have said. And so I'll start with Datuk Raiha Azni. So Datuk Raiha was the ex-senior VP HR of Petronas, and now she's the HRD Corp's Board of Directors. So she spoke about how women's participation grew in Petronas. And she did mention that it is an organizational issue that should be addressed. And there's always this blind spot. So women need to be inspired, they need to be motivated, and the organization must have a diversity and inclusion policy at their workplace. So I think we have heard from all the other speakers. They did mention about this, about diversity and inclusion, of course, equity as well. And Dato' Raiha also mentioned about establishing a women network or platform, flexible work arrangement, which is always something that could provide women the balance that they need. Strong focus and implementation targets, monitor and update board or the management of your company, on all the initiatives and the numbers that that comes with it. Then we had Anthony, Managing Director of Conferry, and Anthony spoke a lot on diversity, equity, and inclusion. But Anthony's focus was very much on statistics that we see today. And I think it's a very good data set if any organization were to show to your management, look here, this is what the data says, and this is what we need to do. So perhaps you may want to get a copy of Anthony's slide. And Anthony also did mention that 83% of organizations out there have accelerated their efforts, and this is from the data that he compiled. Organizations are focused on updating their non-discrimination policies and deploying the DEI agenda, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the statistics that was shown by Anthony also shows an encouraging progress, but there is still some room for improvement that could be done or that need to be done. And Anthony also shared the 5 steps in actionizing the DEI agenda, or shall I say the diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda. And then we had Siti Suryati, who is the CHRO of HRD Corp, and she spoke about the good representation of female participation at HRD Corp. And I think if you have heard, she mentioned that the board of directors, X amount of them are female, etc. I think the numbers were nothing less than 40%, which is actually very encouraging. And she also spoke about consciously hiring, but not forgetting competency and skills. So it is not that they only focused on hiring females. Competency and skills is equally important, but they were quite conscious. And Siti also spoke about creating an environment that is comfortable to initiate conversations. And I think this was also spoken by the other speakers as well. And lastly, Siti also did mention about having mentors or having a mentor leader is an essential ingredient to encourage female participation at leadership level. So it cannot, I mean, from what I understand from Siti's sharing is, it cannot be just a HR topic alone. So when we want to grow the female agenda, it has got to be an inclusive approach where the leadership, the mentors, and and all all at that level has got to be participate in. Then we had Olivia, and Olivia is the CHRO of Jepson and Jessen, and Olivia literally shared her journey from where she started to where she is today. And I picked up a couple of points from Olivia's sharing. So what Olivia did was she spoke about having the right guidance and the right friends in order for her to reach the top. So she was privileged to have this. And of course, she says, in order to climb, you need to listen and you need to observe. She also spoke about knowing your self-worth, knowing what you want to achieve, and believing in your ability and put the effort to reach that ability of yours. And lastly is having a mentor. And then we had Datuk Grace, who is the VP of SME Corp, SME Association Malaysia, and Datuk Grace is also the board member of HRD Corp. And what did Datuk Grace share? So Datuk Grace mentioned about setting long-term plans, and she spoke a lot on time management, which is very, very important, and how she balanced, between family, between work, between friends, between, and her hobbies. And she spoke a lot on quality and not quantity. So it's not about how long or how much your time was put in, but it's about the quality of time. So sometimes we always forget this. We speak about, oh, I've managed to spend X amount of hours with, doing this, doing that. But I think it's not about the quantity, it's about quality. And Datuk Grace also, said that it is very important to work hard, but at the same time, play hard. It is also important how to communicate effectively, and focus is the key, and execution is critical. So it's not just about having the plans, but you got to execute the plans. If not, the plan remains a plan. And Dato also mentioned about striking a balance and the importance of communicating with peers. And of course, we had Terry Koo. And of course, I would like to, proudly I would say Terry was my ex-boss when I was back at Infineon. And what Terry said was he spoke on equal opportunities. And he spoke about how at Infineon, the organization focuses on developing potential talents, and how do they develop how they focus on personal development. It's both male and female, so there is no biasness that is only has got to be female. And of course, if I relate back to the point shared by Siti, it's also about competency and skills, right? So Terry also spoke about the importance of showing transparency on expectations. So it's not just about having the vision, but also what is expected by the company, and that has got to be transparently communicated to the talents. He spoke on making the talents visible, and there is a targeted leadership development for females. And of course, many other steps that Infineon takes, which is number one, job rotation, putting them on job enrichment, and sending them on international assignments. That means because Infineon is present in multi-countries, so sending somebody from Malaysia, for example, to Singapore or to Germany. And he also spoke about networking and dialogue platform, which I think if I connect back to what Dato' Raiha said, she also mentioned about creating such platforms to enable dialogues, to enable networking. And last but not least, we had Ang Wena from Deloitte. And what did Wena mention? I think this is quite fresh, so I'll just repeat. But what amazed me was the 6 signature traits, which is cognizance of bias, curiosity, cultural intelligence, collaboration, commitment, courage. And these are the key ingredients to setting up what she called as an inclusive leadership. So this was, the wrap-up of what our various esteemed speakers shared today. So on behalf of the organizers, it was quite surprising because we were quite worried why only 130 signed up. But little did we realize almost 453 of you joined us today. Now that's a huge number, and that gives us an encouragement for us to probably consider doing this again or doing some other similar sessions down the road. It could be on this topic or even could be on a similar topic in future. So over to you, Sherin.
Wow, Arul, nobody could have done it better than you. You've just summed the whole event up so well. Thank you so much for that. So guys, we have come to the end of our event for today. On behalf of the Faculty of Social Science and Humanities of UTM, Malaysia HR Forum, Compass Mind Asia, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you all to all our speakers who joined us to provide such inspiring and insightful speeches. We also like to thank the sponsors, which are Siva Sinivasan from Shami Human Solutions in Berhad, the author of Reclaim Your Rights to Success, Pratpal Singh Khosa from Learning Age, the author of Thrive, Hira Singh, the author of Human Resource Documentations, Ganapati Ramasamy, the author of Discipline at Work, a guide for managers, Malaysia HR Forum, and Compass Mind Asia for all the sponsors for the lucky draw. And thank you to all of our online audience. Thanks for all the love and commitment, and also asking all the questions, being so active. Don't forget to follow all of us on our social media accounts and Facebook pages. We'll be posting the link in the chat. Come and join us. I would also like to apologize for any shortcomings on our side. Till we meet again on another day, remember, together we can forge women's equality. Collectively, we can all break the bias. I'm Sherin Kelly signing off. Goodbye.